Plus yesterday, last night. Plus.
In addition,
Plus Jill in
I
front.
tried to look through
Three
the
people on the ice.
bus, but he had a big furry hat on. And I couldn't recognize who he was. He was pulling that red sleigh, right?
yes, exactly, yeah.
And he had a stick. I was like,
No, it's
A little
not.
too early, yes.
It was 2 days Sunday afternoon.
I've done a lot of dangerous things in my life, Pauline. A lot of dangerous things, and I should have been dead a lot of times, but that's okay. I'd never do that, so.
No, it's just a bit too early to be in the middle of the lake.
Yeah.
So if anyone's listening online, you should not be in the
Yeah.
middle of lake. Don't take or Lake Nesponsin if there's thin ice. It's not the time.
They drilled a hole in the channel and two of them stood beside the same hole. I went, well, let's really test it, guys, you know. I mean, seriously. Why would you stand side by side?
Lottery ticket.
On that note, we'll call our meeting to order, and I'd like to thank everyone for being present today. It's great. Here we are, a week for Christmas or Christmas Eve. Madam Clerk, we will move to adopt the agenda.
Mover and seconder, please. Councillor Champagne and Councillor Kelly. The draft agenda presented to council for the special meeting and dated the 17th day of December, 2024, be hereby adopted as circulated.
All in favor? The bond carried. Any declarations of conflict of interest or pecuniary interest thereof? There being none, we will proceed with the presentation of the strategic plan. But first, I think on behalf of council to say, thank you to, there's a lot of work that has gone into preparing this report and it shows. And so I think it's important to highlight that as we start off. There may be some comments, but certainly, it's in the context of an excellent report that's been pulled together. So we turn it over to you, Monsieur Tressier. You will lead us through it, I understand.
Sounds good, Mayor Rushford. So as the mayor has mentioned, this is a progress report on our strategic plan. The plan was developed at the start of 2023, at the start of the council term. It spans 4 years, the term of council. Initially, we had planned to do an annual progress report. One was not done in 2023, although we passed the plan in 2023. So it wasn't quite a full year we would have had for 2023. So this is a progress report on the first 2 years of the term of council, basically. So we can go through it. As stated on the first page is basically an introduction to the strat plan. Basically what I've just said, it's a strat plan for the term of council. I would like to point out that we had 93 respondents to the strategic plan survey that we put out and closed on December 2nd. Represents less than 2% of our population who contributed to the survey. But there's still quite a bit of valuable information that was collected through that survey, and information that I look at it. Sometimes there's themes, and I know that information's been shared with council. It will be shared with the managers. So the responses, you could tell there was themes, and we know what they are, and they're highlighted in the document as well. It's nice to see that, because then you get a kind of a feel for what they're saying out there, what residents are saying, even though it was only 93 respondents. But also what we could take from it as staff is there could be some quick wins as well, right? So if you hear common, themes or issues, you could find a way to communicate it to the residents. So I'll give you an example. Like one comment was, it'd be nice to have a newsletter. Well, we have a newsletter. We've had a newsletter for my entire time, I believe, here with East Ferris. It used to be a monthly, and we had went to quarterly because it was so hard to get information to put into a monthly newsletter. There's only so much, right? So things like that, we look at them like there's some quick wins, things that we can change internally, or programs we can introduce that we thought, hey, why didn't somebody bring it to our attention, right? So it's really valuable information. We want to thank the residents that took the time to fill out that survey as well.
It's saying that last night, the North Bay, there's, I don't know, 2,000 people have responded to it. So it's even less than us, or 50,000.
Yeah, I think their figure was either 3.89 or 3.98% of the population is what they're saying filled it out. So percentage wise, a bit more, but pretty small amount for 50-some thousand population, right? What's tough with these surveys as well, we can't limit it to our residents. We have no clue if people from Bondfield or Chisholm or Callander or North Bay or Toronto will really fill this in. You know, how many of people are full-time residents versus some seasonal? Because there was some comments in here that I could tell they were a seasonal resident. So someone's keeping an eye on Facebook or our website, saw it, filled it out. So they don't live here all year, but they still contributed to it, right? So, yeah. The next page, oh, sure.
That's, you know, I'm saying that in fairness, you could eliminate 1/3 of our population because they're under the age of 18 and wouldn't be responding.
That's right.
So we're probably somewhere between 3 and 4% respondents rather than.
For that age group, yeah.
That's
Yeah.
just my opinion.
Now, what we did with the responses from the survey, we were able to pull some analytics from it. Like, you know, there were some that were a direct question, yes, no, unsure, or, you know, strongly agree, neutral, that kind of thing. Some of that data you're finding in here as well that we've utilized just to get the message out on where we stand for that. Also, council may have saw comments around a certain item. And you might say today, well, we got to do something about it. And maybe there needs to be an action item to address that. But the comments we won't be releasing publicly. The plan was not to release them. They're for council's benefit and manager's benefit. But there could be something in there that you want to bring forward and say, we need to do something about it. So today we won't go through the comments, I guess is what I was kind of getting. Okay, our next page is just a table of contents. And then if we start going through the document, and we'll go through this fairly quick. We're going to spend most of the time on the action items. Managers are here as well today. Thank you for that, for being in attendance because they will have things to say about some of their items as well. And they're also here to answer any questions that you may have. So in the About Our Municipality section, we just wanted to share with those residents that may take a peek at this, but have not looked at our strat plan that this is the mission and vision of the municipality. And then we've never done this in the past, and there's really no information out there except for our FIR that tracks how much staff we have. So we wanted to share with the public, you know, how much staff do we have? And we've roughly got about 24 full-time staff members. They're divided amongst many different departments. So we thought we'd put that information out there this year just to share a little bit more about us as a municipality. And then we've got a picture of council and your information as well. And then we put in what section on what the role of council is, straight from the Municipal Act. And then we've got all the council members listed with what boards and committees that you sit on. And this is just getting information out to the public, right? We heard a lot of, I would say, in the comments about communication. Some said we do a lot of good communication, a lot of posts on Facebook and our website, and then we hear from others, terrible communication, right? So I'm not sure where the middle part is or what the, you know, where we want to be. But we thought we'd add a little bit more information in this progress report to get it out there that if someone's reading it, it would be stuff that's not really found, like maybe not on our website, or it's not stuff they go looking for. So. Then the next page is all the municipal accomplishments that are bigger items. Some are in the strat plan, some are not in the strat plan, but we wanted to have a one-pager that kind of showed what the accomplishments were over 2023 and 2024. So we installed 2 electrical vehicle charging stations at the municipality, the municipal office. There is an item in the strat plan that spoke to having charging stations within the community. So that's an item. Expanded the South Shore boat launch and parking area. Built the municipal office and public works garage, and we moved into the facilities. One at the beginning of 2023 and one later on. And then we did a full kitchen renovation at the East Ferris Community Center. We reconstructed the outdoor rink and replaced the playground at the Corbeil Recreation Hub. That spanned the last 2 years. They reconstructed Catherine Drive, Trappers Court, Astor Street, Denise Drive, and Grew Road. Grew Road's I would say about 75% complete, and we'll be returning to it. The plan is in 2025 to complete it. We did a full study. So we hired a consultant to do a full culvert evaluation of all our municipal culverts so that we had valuable data, number one for asset management plan, but also for our own planning purposes when we get into budget to start determining how many need to be replaced and how much money's got to be budgeted to be able to get that work done. Then we did a 14-kilometer, so 7 kilometers on each side of the road. So 14-kilometer of walking, cycling, active transportation trail on McPherson Drive and Centennial Crescent, which leads you to the Corbeil Recreation Hub here in the village. And then with the assistance of a summer student this past year, and staff may have already had started that project before, we fully digitized all municipal bylaws from 1951 to present. Prior to 1951, they're pretty, I don't want to say brittle, that if you were to take them and get them scanned, that they would damage originals. So we did from 51 on. And as we go on, every time we pass bylaws, they're being added to our website. So they're already being digitized. It was just prior years that we were looking to get done. Increased in events and programming. So if you know the last couple of years, we've added things like themed public skating, the Light Up the Park event, which we had our second annual this year. Goods Exchange Day was something new that we've added that it's done also in other communities. So we're always trying to look at ways to offer more to the residents of East Ferris, more to keep them in our community and not have to go outside the community to for recreational needs or events, right? We also did renovations to the Astorville Fire Hall, which included a new drilled well, space improvements at the East Ferris Public Library, which also included fully renovating the washroom, the public washroom for accessibility needs was done. Then number 13 was a total paging system upgrade for the East Ferris Fire and Emergency Services. And then a major culvert replacement on Lake Nosbonsing Road. That was a bit of a surprise project. It failed prior to us being able to get to it, although we knew it was a priority. So those are some of the big ticket items over the last 2 years. Most of this, if you're a resident, you could find in our budget document or you know, if you're part of listening to our budget meetings, these are all the items that get deliberated on and approved by council to move ahead with. So these were some of the major ones over the last 2 years.
You, item 9? Oh,
So our next page that's called Find the Information You Seek. This was trying to tackle the comment we heard about more communication. And one comment was, I shouldn't have to watch every council meeting to know what's going on. We don't make the paper or something like that, but I'm thinking it's a bit of a two-way street. Like there's only so much we can put out that if a resident doesn't check our website or go to Facebook or subscribe to our newsletter, you're not going to be fully aware. How else would you be? Like there's no way of printing a document every month and mailing it to the house for them to be informed. There's still got to be some work done from residents, right? So we want to highlight here ways we communicate to the public that maybe they're not fully aware of either, but to try to summarize it all into a page. So we do on this page say, did you know that the municipality takes measures to ensure information you need is easy to find? So we've indicated that on a municipal website, it's loaded with information from services that are available in East Ferris to local businesses, to information for new residents. Also, we post all our municipal events there, and there's also a calendar of events. And then we post any meetings as well of council or committees. So our website's a good medium for finding information about the municipality. And then we've got our annual municipal calendar, which if you see in front of you today, we received the calendar today. It's going out in the mail this week.
Yeah, the strike's over.
The strike's over today. At first, they weren't accepting any new mail until they got through some of the backlog, but then they called us back and said to bring the calendars. So it'll hit the mail this week. So council's got a copy in front of them. I will point out that Kim did most of the work for this, aside from maybe Jaden assisting with gathering some of the information and making some of the corrections with phone numbers and contacts and that. And then a couple of us do a bunch of proofreading. But all done internally except for the printing is done outside of the municipality. Yep. So really, really valuable tool for less than $2,600. Then every resident gets one.
But basically, prior to COVID, this is all we had. COVID started, we started doing meetings online through Zoom. Right. Never did that.
Yeah.
This was their only way of getting information.
Aside from social media and our website.
Newsletter we put out, at least now, actually look at the meeting, I mean, kind of push the button and
That's right.
transfer that way.
Yeah, and we've never deleted any videos off our YouTube account. They're there from the day the council decided to live stream. Some municipalities have retention bylaws that dictate 60 days. I'm not sure why, because all that information is housed on YouTube. It's not like it's taking space on our own server. But anyway, that's their decision. But we've got all of our meetings taped on YouTube. So that's yeah, good point. Then also we've got our newsletter, which is called the Snapshot. It goes out quarterly. So we do one for every season, basically. The winter one is going out this week before we head, for some of us anyway, to Christmas break. Some are going out next week. So the newsletter will be released. And usually with that, it covers about a 3-month span. We try to put any office closures, any new programming, any starts to programs like soccer registration, just say, could be new bylaws that were passed that we want the public to be informed of, especially things like good neighbor bylaws or short-term rental bylaws and that. We want to be aware of it. So there's always lots of information on the Snapshot. Kim, question, if you know, how many subscribers to the Snapshot roughly?
I believe we are sitting around 300 mark.
Yes, around 300 people have subscribed to get it. So I would say anybody that's looking to say we don't communicate well enough, that's probably one of the better ones to subscribe to. Because not everybody wants to be on Facebook, right? Yep.
Just to continue that, how does somebody subscribe to that, Jake?
Yeah, so on our website, there's a link that you can click on and then fill in your information, or you can call the municipality and say, I want to receive the newsletter. Here's my email address. So what we'll try to do as well going forward is, and I think we do this, Kim, when we release a newsletter, we also put on social media or website, if you want to subscribe to it, contact us.
And it's multiple ways.
That's correct, yeah. And then aside from those, you know, if we have to mail, if there's a new program, like we've done in the past, we had our CIP, we've mailed out rack cards to every household in the community. So sometimes we'll do rack cards or flyers or, you know, posters during COVID, we sent to every household just because we wanted everybody to get the information. So those are the avenues of how we communicate information from the municipality. Now, there may be, and I'll be honest, I'll give Calendar credit. They do a really good job after their council meetings and prior to their council meetings, but I'm thinking they've got new staff on because this is just fairly new, but they'll say, hey, come to our council meeting. This is what's being debated. And it's almost like a mini version of the agenda. And then I thought they were doing some kind of recap after as well. Like we had a meeting and this is, you know, so maybe there's different things we can put out there that would hit website, social media, you know, because if someone's saying, I don't want to watch a council meeting to find everything out, well, if it could be summarized into one post, then they might look at that and say, oh, well, I'm interested in that clean yards bylaw. So now I'll go and grab and get the information, right? So we can always find better ways of communicating or the information we're putting out there. So maybe that's something we'll look at for 2025.
Good idea.
Yeah, and if council has any ideas, that's fine, but I would give Calendar credit. When I saw that, I thought, what a good post that they put out as a summary, right? And then at the bottom of that page to end, we've got our link to our Facebook account, our website, and also our YouTube account where meetings are live streamed. So moving on, we've got our guiding principles. So our first guiding principle is transparency. It says we're committed to operating in an open and transparent manner. We'll continue to enhance how we inform, engage, and listen to residents and stakeholders. Performance measures will ensure we stay on track and remain accountable for results. So we had asked during the survey, do you feel that council's operating in an open and transparent manner and enhanced communications and engagement opportunities? So about 50% answered yes, 20% no, and 30% were unsure. So I mean, half of them to say, yeah, it's not a bad figure. But to me, if you're unsure, most of it's personally, when I say I'm unsure, I don't want to say no because I'm unsure. So when we look at it, there's possibility of 30% of the population. If we got more information out there or did things differently, we can flip them to a yes. But I mean, when you combine those two figures, you're looking at about 80% of the population either said yes or unsure. And no was 20%, right? So when you really look at that, 50% of 93. So there's only 40 some people that are saying, yeah, or so like you got to watch percentages, right? Our second guiding principle is fiscally responsible. So we're focused on fiscally responsible core service delivery to ensure the long-term financial health of our municipality. We must think broadly, balance the needs of our rural community, and be innovative in keeping our services affordable. We'll continue to make informed decisions to ensure a sound financial future. So we asked the residents, do you agree that the municipality is balancing the needs of the community while keeping services affordable? So we've got about 45% said agree, and 25% somewhat agree, and then 15% was neutral. About 9% said somewhat disagree, and 6.5% were disagreeing. So between the agree and somewhat agree, we end up with about close to 70, just say 70% of the population. So it's a good response. Our third guiding principle was to listen and collaborate. So it says we can't do it alone. We'll strengthen our relationships with external organizations to collaborate on projects and services. We support the innovation, look for opportunities to partner to advance our common goals. We work with all levels of government to maximize one taxpayer investment. So we asked the residents, do you feel that the council has listened and collaborated with residents, stakeholders, and other levels of government to ensure innovation and advancement in our community? So about 52% said yes, and about 20% said no, and about 30% were unsure. So again, the unsure and the yes is about 82% of the population. Service excellence. We serve our community with pride. We seek to understand and meet the needs of those we serve within our available resources. We're committed to accessible, timely, knowledgeable, courteous, and fair service. We value feedback and use what we learn to make it better. So we asked, how satisfied are you with the quality of service delivered by the municipality of East Ferris? 32% were very satisfied, 31% somewhat satisfied, and 16% were neutral. And then between somewhat satisfied and not satisfied, there's about 20% again. It seems to be 20% is the descendants of everything in the study. But between the two top ones, we've got about 63% that are very satisfied or somewhat satisfied, and then the neutral. This was one I thought would have been nice to score higher on personally when we look at that as staff, but maybe there's ways to improve it for next year, I would say. In the survey responses itself, there wasn't very much that there wasn't really any negative towards services or staffing, right? So it was surprising to see that stat. So our strategic priorities, our first one is one of the priorities was to have a vibrant, livable community. So a positive and inclusive sense of place, belonging, community, and we would do this by strengthening community partnerships, developing municipal recreational infrastructure, increasing community program and facility usage, and ensure community safety and well-being. So we asked the residents, do you feel that progress has been made in achieving the 4 objectives listed above? So about 53% said yes, 22.5% no, and about 25% said they were unsure. In terms of supporting our entrepreneurial community, we want a strong local economy to support youth, families, and seniors, and we would do this by supporting and promoting local businesses, collaborating to provide educational resources, foster economic development, and ensure a strong and sustainable business community. So we asked residents and businesses, do you feel that the progress has been made in achieving the 4 objectives listed above? 46% said yes, about 14% said no, and 40% were unsure. So again, there were 40 and 46, we got about 86, 87% of the population that were either yes or unsure. So I thought that was a good indicator. And our last 2 priorities, the first one, open and transparent governance. So a place where residents are engaged, empowered, welcomed, and well served by the municipality. So when we did the strat plan, we debated that increase in communication, maintaining low tax rate, fiscal responsibility, and service excellence would meet this. We'd have to do that to meet the priority. So we asked residents, do you feel that progress has been made in achieving the 4 objectives listed above? Well, 52% answered yes, 18% no, and about 30% were unsure. So protect our environment was our last priority. And it's, we're looking to be a leader in local environmental stewardship. And we'd be doing this, to do this, we would have to be stewardship of natural resources, modernize our landfill operations and lifespan, maximize waste diversion, and promote our green spaces. So we asked residents, do you feel that the progress has been made in achieving the 4 objectives listed above? And they answered about 35.5% said yes, 30% no, and 34% were unsure. So about a third on that one there.
We've talked about it, that roads. That's better.
Yeah.
Looking into, hopefully, by the end of the year, but next year. Place.
It is our worst indicator, I guess, of response, like, I don't know if worse is the right word, but where there's less,
Well, this one had the largest no value. And yes was not 50% or anything like that, right? So it's split.
But we have a report on how much plastic is actually in cardboard goes to the, gets picked up now, and do we still get the tonnage every year? How much is gone?
It's all got to be reported to the.
Is it going up or down, like, as far as the mechanism we're using as far as study goes?
Well, maybe to add to that, we did a waste audit. When they did the waste audit, they evaluated like how much recycling goes into the garbage and how much recycling is actually. And the findings from that was very positive.
Yeah.
So when we're trying to see like what do we do to continue promotion and education, I think on a provincial level, like we're scoring really good. So I mean, these are stats, but the numbers that we did when we did the waste audit was showing that we're like the recycling program is doing really good.
That's something we gotta get the public wants to see that part of it. That might be an opportunity, to let the public know how much material goes in our landfill site, and how much plastic and cardboards actually get recycled.
I was just thinking in the calendar, is there anything on
Yeah,
particular, and those,
yeah, one of the ones that's recycling.
I want to say it's May or something, but it doesn't show that.
it doesn't show stats.
No, not the
That's what I was
stats.
asking. Okay,
So it might be one place to look at as far as letting people know.
No, I didn't want to interrupt your comment, but is it possible to like have a post-survey survey to sort of, you know, what, these are questions that we don't understand, what's happening in our community and asking the community to sort of, what do you mean? 'Cause about this.
Yeah, so the way I look at it, Councilor Rebecca, is under that section of our survey, it's its own section, right? Question.
Right.
I was kind of reading the comments related to that to try to determine, you know, that's the way I'm looking at it, is that if somebody says no, they've probably made a comment.
Mhm.
And I'm trying to see if there was a theme there of why, right?
Right,
So I think like, we haven't had a lot of time to digest the comments, like we've gone through them all. I haven't circulated to the managers yet because I want council to have them first. But maybe it means after today, we all look again at those and say, is there something, are there ideas to maybe get information out there that addresses this? Or is there an action item that we think we can do something? I'm just not, like, if we put a post survey out and ask that, will we get the same, I'm almost thinking we need the same respondents to answer that. Like, they're the ones that put yes, no, or unsure, right? Plus, it's another survey to fill out.
so it's an idea, so so it could,
yeah. Sometimes there's a secondary question afterwards, right?
then
But
drill down and then
it's up to you.
Councilor Jack?
Yeah, just to kind of expand on that. So I read some comments on it because I saw the percentages there. And I think the question, why I think that the numbers are like that is because I think there's people reading into it and then they're not really, I think the question was too large, too vague.
Broad.
And then some people were thinking, say outside the box or perceiving it a different way. So I think maybe if we scope the questions a little tighter, you might get a better response back. Because I looked at the answers and there was or the replies and they were kind of all over the map a little bit. And you're like, okay, well, you're trying to think of how somebody was thinking and that's in my other life. I used to do that. So by looking at some of the answers and looking at the questions, I'm thinking that's where there was a lot of different avenues that the residents talked with regards to replying to that question. So I think that's why you have that. I wouldn't, it's not a bad idea, but I would say just kind of scope the question a little tighter and narrow to that. I think we may get a little more truer numbers to reflect.
Councillor Champagne?
Yeah, I think it would change, sure, it's like, tell them what we've done and how we're proceeding, what's happened. Right now, it's just a blank question, I agree with what you're saying, but if you give an idea of what we do as far as the landfill, as far as we do recycling, all that on paper, it might get a different, I think the unsure will change.
Yeah, the idea,
Big one.
see, the idea of the questions was, you know, if you look at open and transparent governance and we've got what our action items are and everything, right? To me, if I was doing this survey, like, if you just ask the question, do you feel that progress has been made in achieving the 4 objectives listed above? You just read those 4. I don't think you're getting the best picture. I think what needs to be done is they need to look at the strat and look at the action items and then make a determination prior to saying has progress or not. Like if one of the action items is expanding the boat launch with the Oswego anglers and hunters, right? Like there's actually items there. If nobody knows anything that was done like that and they just look at those 4 lines and answer, I'm not sure you're answering to the best. Like I know, like Councillor Tran said, it's a broad question, but it's meant to be that after looking at what that priority is and what the action items are, and then saying, oh yeah, because it is a progress report. We're asking them to judge the progress, right? I think with some,
Unfortunately, you're gonna get 2 sides there, again, and that's where some people don't want to put the work into it.
yes,
They just want to go click and go, click and go, click and go without looking into the strat plan, looking into this, looking at that. So I get you. And that's how you think, and that's fine, and other people do think that way, but I think for this to actually have it to work and get good, or not good numbers, but get your true numbers, they're not, you gotta make the work a lot less, and that's what, unfortunately, but that's the avenue you gotta go.
it's tough because we got to balance,
Yes, yeah, I get you.
you know, someone will say, how long does the survey take to fill out? You say 20 minutes and they say, forget it, right?
Yeah.
This thing has to be done in fairly quick. So if you put too much information leading up to asking a question, they're gonna go directly to the question, hit yes, no.
And that's where I'm saying is shorten up the questions, make it,
So-
and you'll get a better percent, right? But
Yeah,
Did you?
I just
And then Councillor.
protect our environment is a big thing. 'Cause some people may not, like, we're talking about recycling and landfill extension, right?
Yeah.
But people wouldn't consider that as environment, as more protecting the lakes. As, you know, are we moving towards getting off of fossil fuels? Are we doing those things? So it's, people may have, when they're looking at this, not looking at our strat plan, their perception of what is protecting the environment. So it's a big question.
Big question.
yeah.
It is.
Councillor Champagne and then Councillor Kelly.
Yeah, that was kind of part of my answer. I was gonna say, if you're looking around our lakes, like we do the septic program, we do the recycle or when they go and recheck septic systems again, that's all part and parcel. But even some of the questions here, does nothing to do with environment. So that you have to be careful to say this. You gotta narrow it down to the questions that need to be.
So like what question wouldn't be about environment? Like what, you're saying something has nothing to do with environment?
Fun here about policing. Environmental.
Where?
Is the action items, Councillor Champagne?
Some of the questions they were asking.
Comments.
In the comments, okay.
Yeah, comments.
Oh, you're talking about the comments.
Yeah.
So what I found, I'll pick on one respondent, okay? Every response to every question in here, whether it was environment, open government, whatever, it was all about the quarry. If you're gonna answer this with a one-track mind, I mean, that's all that's gonna be spoken about, right? Like it was, soon as you got to environment, oh, the quarry is a big issue. Soon as you got to open, transparent government, oh, the council wasn't telling us what was going on with the quarry. Oh, everything was quarry across the board. It's the same, we got an answer about we need a playground in Astorville for almost every question. It had nothing to do with every question. That's just someone, a bit of a hijacking the survey to get the point across, which maybe they're thinking, okay, if I do it for every answer, somebody's gonna see it. But I've read every question, their response page to page, as well as probably every council member, every comment. So you've seen that.
But the one I like, well, some are a little obscure, but the ones I like is the ones, I don't think our bins are big, which is a good thing. Like,
Yes.
recycling bins are not big enough, so they have to get 3, 4, or 5 of them.
Yes.
Get a big one, that's a lot better. A lot of people are saying, well, it doesn't fit, so it's gonna burn it.
Yeah.
That happens.
So those are the one-offs we said that are good gains for us, things you hear like that, right? You'll see though, for 2025, there's gonna be a change to the recycling program. We're gonna start in the new year at some point, speaking to the transition to the Blue Box program to producer responsibility. With that's gonna come, can we say anything at this point, Antoine?
Yeah.
It's fair to, there's gonna be new recycling bins in the new year, once it transitions, so we're transitioning at the end of September 2025 or September 1?
So there's 2 stages.
Yes.
The first, the transition that we agreed from September 1st to finish the year.
Yeah,
And then after that, the official.
it's 2026. But what comes with that is brand new recycling bins that are larger, that have lids, that the truck's actually gonna pick up, scoop and empty and keep driving. That's a GFL decision, initiative. As far as we know at this point, every household's gonna be given one of those recycling bins and they will be larger and they've got lids. And that's the idea, is that the truck just picks it up. So do you know the size of the bin at all, Antoine? Would it reduce having 2 or 3 or 4 recycling bins?
Yeah, they would have the divider inside and we're further. We got big wheels. And it's a provincial approach with circular material and GFL is implemented.
Yeah.
Councillor Kelly and then
Thank you.
Deputy Mayor.
I see a lot of positives in the survey. I look at the growth we've had, the phenomenal growth we've had in the last 10, 15 years. People to a survey, we had a pool of respondents of about 3,000 people. 98 responded. That tells me that the majority of people are very happy with the way things are. People will usually respond in a very negative fashion if there's something they really don't like. I remember twice we filled the hall at two council meetings. One was for a lagoon that was going to go in, and there were people very concerned. And the other was when we
Speed limit.
changed the speed limit in Ashtabula. Because people were very concerned and really ticked off. Other than that, people were very, very happy. I find that most people in a rural community are independently minded. They have very independent spirits. And most people, their interaction with the municipality is how it affects them. How good are the roads in the winter? How bad is the dust in the summer? And what do I pay for taxes? Because those are immediate impact on your everyday life. Well, so I think there's a lot of unsures that wanted to do their duty as a citizen and respond, but they don't really interact on a regular basis with, and if they want to know something, they'll go to the Fresh Mart, they'll phone a counselor if they know a counselor. One question I get asked all the time is what's going on with the school in Ashtabula? Because it's a concern, because it's a bit of doesn't look very nice, quite frankly. So, but I'm really happy with all the positives, and there's very, very few negatives. And really, a 20% negative is what, 18 people? Well, for 18 people, there's 70 people that are very happy. So I think it's a very positive thing. I think we're on the right track. I think we could improve communications, and it could always be improved. But that depends on whether people want to read what you try to communicate with. Some people read the newspaper, a lot of people do not. It depends on social media, quite frankly. I know we all do. So anyway, that's just my comments. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Councillor Kelly. Wait, Deputy Mayor.
This is probably a bad time to even say it, but you have to remember private roads with those bins. So I just know people who get on private roads and they talk to me about the private roads and those bins, you'd be lining up down the, anyways.
Wait, but it's a good comment. No, it's a good. I think I just saw Monsieur Boucher make a note, so thank you for making that comment.
Is that before we've plans happen.
And something to keep in mind as well is that at that point, it's going to be circular material, it's going to be managed that better. That's because the provincial law is.
Yeah.
Right.
So that, not to forget, but they will have challenges and they know how they need to get those, that's just, you know, spots that they have.
Okay, moving on to the next page, we're getting into action items, there's there's a total of 44 action items in our strategic plan that spans 4 years. For 2023 and 2024, it was 26 of the 44 action items that should have been completed, so, I'm not sure this tells a complete picture because anything in the strat plan that spanned more than 1 year, so there was some that we said 2023 to 2026. So that was either we were doing an annual event in 2023, 4, 5, and 6, or we were gonna just, like I'll give an example, advocating for childcare spaces and that would be one that spanned 2023 to 2026. It's ongoing. Sometimes there's an opportunity to advocate for it, sometimes there's not. I'd say at this point for childcare, we've beat down the door. I don't know how many times with DSAB. It's a DSAB thing now to make that next step and get childcare spaces. You know, unless council was to say to heck with it, we'll have our own daycare and staff it. I mean, I don't think we want to go in that direction. So in saying that, the ones that span more than 1 year were pulled out of the figures. So this is only reporting on the ones that had a completion date of 2023 or 2024. So 27% of the 26 items are completed at the end of like either 2023 or 4, but as of today are completed. So that's about 7 out of 26 items. About 6 of the items are in progress and we expect to have them completed by the spring. So that's 50% right there. Of the other 50% of the items, we're looking to get them done by the end of 2025. So they are delayed, and I would say much more delayed than you know, we really wanted to. In saying that though, there's, you know, if 7 items represents 27%, you know, we could do 3, 4 items and flip this figure completely in a different direction. It doesn't take very long. And some of those items are not items that would take all that long, I guess, to achieve. So that's why we're saying for this year is a bit of a catch-up year coming, 2025, to really get those items done, because we've also got items for 2025 that need to be started, right? Anyway, we'll go through them. We just want to provide a bit of a growth. A big thing that came in the survey as well, and I know council's got all the respondents, was, you know, quite a bit of development, lots for sale. Or we were losing our rurality, things like that, right? But when you really look at, we want to put population data in there. If you look at 2016 to 2021, you know, it went from 4,862 to 4,946. This is StatsCan data. So it was a growth of about 1.73% over 5 years from 2016 to 2021. I mean, that's not huge. We do know though, from 2021 to 2026 will be the next 5 years. Maybe we'll see larger than 1.7, right? You know, it's some communities, you know, and I guess some residents look at it as an issue, growth as being an issue, but there's a lot of municipalities around us that would love to have our growth as well. We know our neighbor, the city of North Bay, would love to see the growth figures that are happening in some of the smaller communities around us. We're hearing from staff perspective that Bonfield was one of the highest growth areas for 2024 was Bonfield.
It was.
And Matawan. So you're seeing, and today, the mayor and myself went to the 2025 Ministry of Finance budget session. And we were hearing there from somebody that attended that event that all the municipalities outside of the city of North Bay were showing really good growth over the last year and 2 years. So it's not just us. We're a desirable community. People want to live here. We've got, there's land. And, you know, one thing I'll say as well is, you know, you can only control growth so much as well. Like we don't own the land. We don't sell land to developers. We don't sell land. You know, it's not municipal land. If someone's selling their land and somebody else is doing a subdivision, you know, as long as it's good planning underneath your official plan in the zoning bylaw and it follows provincial policy statement, I mean, there's growth, right? So there is a piece further on in here that, you know, speaks to a bit of growth, but, you know, I would look at that at 1.73% population growth over 5 years is not being extremely significant. Yeah. One thing we do know is every house in East Ferris, the average is about 2.5 people per house, per new house. That's just a figure. So when you look at it, if we do 20 houses a year, we got about 50 new people a year roughly on 5,000, right? And that's just an average. So we just wanted to address growth a bit in this and kind of put the figures out there. A lot of people wouldn't go look at StatsCan data, right? We keep a close eye on it. We also have to include some of that information on things we report on to the ministry of youth population and our own population and assessment growth and things like that. So.
Just one debate about housing and growth is when
Type
people are
of-
talking to me about it, is, you know, they're saying, well, we want more affordable housing. And I said, well, if we want affordable housing, we have to change our official plan to have smaller lots, right? And people don't want that, don't want that, and it's a difficult balance. So, because we don't have a lot of affordable
The balance
housing.
is, what is affordable housing?
Right,
Define it. Exactly.
yeah,
So that's where every government is stuck at right now.
Right.
Whether it's provincial or federal.
Yeah.
And municipal. Define affordable housing.
Maybe to some extent as well. I mean, I think within our plans, the municipality would be able to construct, we'd be able to move forward on affordable housing. But certainly the major problem is no one wants to build affordable housing because the profit margins are too thin. And there is no government subsidy. This morning at the meeting with the Ministry of Finance, DSAP did an excellent presentation on affordable housing. I was pleased. The comments were good. They also spoke on childcare, which was really good. But, you know, they explained that this is where, when you meet with DSAP, say how it's a great presentation on the need for funding to support affordable housing, because there are no builders out there that want to build affordable housing. We have that school, for example, in Asheville that has been purchased by a developer and we're somewhere along the way. I mean, there may be a need for financing. But I mean, it is, if there are roadblocks, to your point, Deputy Mayor, in some of our planning documents, it is important to highlight them. For me personally, I'm unaware that there's anything that would prevent the construction of an affordable housing property. So that's important as well for the public. If they have misinformation on that, we need to say so. But there is a need for government funding for affordable housing. They all speak about it, but it's not coming forward in none of the communities. And this morning, they also spoke about with the CMHC, some of the problems when they do get funding. There's a lot of, it's a bureaucratic process, so they spoke of that, but we do need affordable housing. To your point, I agree 100%, but how do we get there? How do we get a builder? There are some in our community, some people that have expressed an interest. I mean, I think there are people that have ideas that may come forward in the new year. Because there is a need in these fairs. But certainly, a final comment from my part, just on that. I always feel that when we do build houses, we help alleviate maybe problems in other communities, like for example, North Bay, where there might be more access to maybe some rental properties or so on. So I feel that by creating opportunities for citizens from, other communities maybe that they can move here, then it liberates space or frees up in our community. But I just reacted just because from the presentation this morning, how the problem is significant. There are no builders, and DSAB did a great study as well. We participated in that survey of DSAB, and so basically that is part of the issue for sure. Lack of builders wanting to build. Sorry, Councillor Champagne, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I'm gonna go back a few years. We went through down this whole history. When we changed our official plan, I believe it's about 12 or 13 years ago, people were complaining there was no lots available. Our kids weren't coming back. There was no place for them to live. Our school population was getting down. Our minor hockey was down. Curling club was down. Volume was down. The stores were complaining. So we opened that up. Now the schools are filling. We lost one school before. Now the schools are filling. Minor hockey is again busy. The curling club is busting at the seams. The 50s club, all these things are happening in these fairs because we opened it up. I know there's more lots, I know there's more people building, but people complain, but as soon as the people are there, their kids play together. It's reaction, and our taxes stay low for a reason, because population growth is getting bigger. And don't forget, people think we're making lots of money off these properties and so we're not. A piece of the pie is all we get, just a piece. You got the ABCs, you got the government, you've got a base session for education. But in order to do that, you need the population growth. If you don't have the population growth, our taxes will increase. I think we're the second lowest in Nipissing. Correct me if I'm wrong, but
And if not, it's third.
if it's not third, I know Nipissing has always been the lowest. That's an enormous to council in the day to open this up, change your official plan to make things happen. Yes, the growth is there. Maybe we have to look at other things now, but we had to get where we are today for that reason.
Councillor Kelly.
In furtherance to that, we've also tried to maintain the rural element, which is a common theme from a lot of people, especially long and short-term residents as well. We moved to the country for a reason. So that's why council decided 2-acre lots as a minimum size. But what Councillor Champagne is referring to is, used to be that you could only sever an old farm with a lot, you can only sever it twice. And now we've opened it up that as long as you have road accessibility and you've done the studies and our engineering department agrees, then you can sever different size lots, but the minimum size is still 2 acres, which council's opinion has been that still maintains a rural center of things. But our growth is such that I think, in my opinion, it's a planned growth. And we do hydro studies, we cross the T's and dot the I's before we take on more builders. As far as affordability goes, it came up because I did some investigating of my own. Second World War, it was the Wartime Housing Act that was passed. And that's why there's so many houses that look the same across Canada, because they were 3-bedroom and they were cookie cutter and they were affordable. The government made them affordable, but provincial and federal governments have to step in. It's beyond the scope of a small municipality to make them affordable, because you're right. When a builder builds and he's going to make only 10 or 15% on the building, what's he going to build? He's not going to build something for 200,000 when someone's waiting to put up a $600,000 or $700,000 home. Thank you.
It's a good point you made. And also we mustn't forget that we're currently throughout Canada, but in our province in particular, our provincial government has encouraged every municipality, right? They've given incentives to a number of communities to build houses. So there's a big push on all communities to build houses for sure. The other thing I find interesting sometimes is that, someone will object to a piece of farmland or a property that's being sold. But at the same time, they go forth and they seek a subdivision for a family member. So, I mean, to a large extent, a lot of our development has occurred that way. People that are off residents that themselves have sought for their children or for a related family member. I'm of the point of view that we do need more affordable housing for young citizens. We want young families, we need young families. So everything that we could, it is maybe a topic for further conversation. But there's many positive elements to our development in these areas for sure.
Sorry, I just want to go back. We're talking about populations in our catchment area. So I had the results here for our from 96 to 21. So our percentage, Matawan was grown by 33% between those years for population. After that was Calgary at 25, Bonneville at 22, East Ferris at 20. So Mattawa was down by 18. The city of North Bay was down over 3%. So yeah, it was interesting to know where everybody's going, right? So just to come back to that conversation and yeah, we had an influx of people, moving in our area, as well as the other rural municipalities. So it's, like growth is rising in the rural areas compared to the cities, and some areas astronomical numbers going up. So yeah, I just wanted to I had to find it and I found it. So
Census, yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
Anyway, good discussion. It's important to have these discussions and we need to continue to have more on this topic for sure. Simply to say on the action items, personally, I was of two minds. I just want to make that comment. When I saw the red 50%, I thought, okay, then I went to look at some of the items that are delayed, which we will look at now. And I thought, well, that's not really delayed. That's just, it's in work or there's discussion.
Yes.
So I react that way. But at the same time, I thought, as we need to deal with, being open and transparent, it's not quite finished. So for sure, okay, so it's delayed. I didn't know if delayed was the right word. But anyway, I thought it's better to keep it that way than not, but as we go through it, we can
Yeah.
examine.
Another tough part with this as well, council, was that there's not a lot of items that are 2025s or 2026. There's a lot of this was front loaded for the start of a term of council. We've only got so much staff to tackle that, so it wasn't evenly spread amongst the 4 years. And also, there's a great deal in our 2023 to 2026. So because they span all those years, you're not able to check it off and say it's over with, it's done. So I don't think that's a good depiction of where we're at. But I don't mind being transparent either and saying, of 2023 to 2024, this should have been done, it's not, that's fine. But I would say a big bulk of them, they were early on in the term. And it was a lot to jump on right away and try to get it all done. I think we were a little aggressive, and that's fine. I mean, one thing Councilor, one thing to remember, this is a 4-year term. Whether council would have picked up the start, but they all be done in 2026 or 5 or. To me, the end of the term, let's get it all done. That's the idea. It's a progress report. Things are gonna change from 1 year to the next. Like, I'll give you an example. If we put down, advocate for childcare, and we did as much as we can in 2023 and 2024, and there just was no government funding. 2026, they might come out with a program. DSUB says we're addressing childcare in East Ferris. Well, we did all the work in 2023 and 2024 as much as we can. We did delegations to ministries. But we're not able to check off and say, oh, it's done. Some things are outside of our control. Some things have to line up. We're waiting on a housing accelerator fund, which the answer may never come now with no minister of housing or finance, right? But we're waiting on this money, right? That would address things for us, right? So some things they're beyond our control, whether they were done or not. And when we go through, you'll see them. There might be even a couple of things that council says. So there's a couple of things in here we're gonna say to council we don't think we should start off with, which would improve figures, which is fine. But there might be stuff that council also says, let's abandon this item now, or maybe we don't need to deal with it anymore. So.
Or shelve it for.
Correct.
Yeah.
And we've done this because Antoine's come forward, or not, sorry, Greg's come forward. One of the items in the plan, and he brought a council report within the last month, was about should we do anything else with septic programs? And we decided at that point, council said at this time, no. Well, it's a completed item. 2 years down the road, it might be a different story, but there is just things that are no, we're not gonna move any further on them. Okay, and in here you'll see there's a recreation master plan and a cultural master plan. Those are things we're gonna say, we don't believe we should go forward with them. Let's talk about what the benefit is of having them. There's a lot of work that goes into that, but I would say collectively around the table and with our managers, we've got enough heads on us to know what should be done in recreation without having a study to tell us what we need to do. So maybe those are items that we don't tackle, the big items, right? So anyway, we'll start first with the community-based action items. Just open up my laptop. So under this one here, the community-based ones was to cultivate a vibrant, livable community. So our first item, partner with Noswinzing Anglers and Hunters to expand South Shore Boat Launch. That's completed. That was a 2023 item that started in late 2023 and got completed into 2024. Promote trail usage in the community. It's in progress right now. Likely something that, and as we go through these, if managers, because every section kind of touches on every manager, so we don't have them all sitting up at the delegation table. But if you want to speak to any of the items, then just let me know you want to speak to the items. Promote trail usage in the community. That's something that's in progress. Implement actions from the active transportation plan. That's a 2023 to 2026 because the plan spans many years, right? So we did get an active transportation trail done in 2024, budgeted, done, under budget, completed. But there's other items in there that address other years. So that's one we could say, well, we're done it, but it is one that's ongoing. The problem with that is we likely can't jump on some of the larger active transportation ones unless there's another fund that comes out. Like the one we did, we had 90% funding for it, and that's 3 different levels or 3 different funding programs. So some of that, like, it'd be nice to be able to say completed, but if there's no funding, it's not going to maybe get completed unless we can fit it into budget, right? Tanker, go ahead.
I just want to mention, I was happy to hear that Deputy Mayor Matthews doing the Wassy Ski Trail. I mean, there are things like that, those are existing trails that we could, so there are opportunities for gains in our, that may not rely on funding. I mean, so, you know.
Correct.
So,
Like the promote trail usage in the community was not limited to our trails, Greg, right? It was whatever trails are available, let's see a way of promoting them. So Wassy has trails in the summer. A lot of residents aren't aware that they can go and utilize those trails. I'd say a lot of residents are still not aware of even stepping stones. I mean, I think that's a lot of residents on the northern end of town that are using the trails. You know, there was a comment in our survey about Conservation Authority trails. There seems to be something out there that some people aren't even aware of those trails. So we were trying to say, here's the trails in the community, whether we own the trail system or not, that was part of promoting the trails. And I'm not sure if you want to, yeah, go ahead.
I'll even add things about that. So since the trail promotion of trails in the community, we've been doing a few things behind the scenes to try to set up some programming that'll be coming. So for example, we met with the representatives from Northeastern Ontario Tourism earlier this year, and we're trying to leverage their connections as an opportunity to get funding dollars to produce like videography or different promotional materials for our various trail systems. So there's things like that where we're trying to use our external partners to help promote our trail systems. So that's just one example, but we are trying to find creative ways to
Yeah, and we go back to what I was saying. So we grew by 20%. And it's great that you joined the Wassy Ski Trail because I was a member for many years, some time ago. So we have new people coming in. They're not aware. We have all this stuff that's been here for years. So they're just starting to know what we offer, what's within our municipality. So yeah, so sometimes it's just about just getting that out there.
it's a never ending job.
It is.
You nailed it. So it's, you know what I mean? So it's, you know, it's just advertising, marketing, and whatever.
Yeah, people to this day still don't know we have a fitness center.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, so,
Live here for years.
You're right.
no, it's not, I think it's just how you market it or, you know, go about it. Like it's, you know, like we have beautiful cross country ski trails. We have tons of walking trails here. You know, and there's tons of infrastructure that we have that a lot of people, new people that don't know, like we've been here for all our lives. So, you know what I mean? We know, we are aware. You know what I mean? So it's just to get that out there. So.
So it's good, great that you're, it's good that you're doing it.
Okay, so thank you for the presentation. That's a future item. Implement objectives for community safety and well-being plan. Now, a lot of the, in reviewing the community safety and well-being plan, a lot of the items or the initiatives were to be completed in 2023 and reported on, I believe, in 2024. Right now, we lack the data to be able to report on those. So one of them was like improving residents' access. I think it was to family doctors or without getting a survey, we don't know what that data is. So that's why we put it on this one. We lack the data on whether we've met those objectives. They were more objectives versus like action items. Like there was nothing we really had to do, but we were to report on it. So in saying that, I think we've got to find a way to kind of close the loop on the community safety wellbeing plan initiatives or objectives. And I'm not sure if it's something that'll be updated within the next year or two, or it has to be addressed, but we didn't really have a lot for that. The next thing is develop pocket parks for the community where they were viable. This is a 2023 to 2026. It's going to span the term of council. We did the playground ordeal in 2024. It's done. One thing to point out as well, when we say pocket parks, they're not pocket playgrounds. It's not like we're going to have 4 or 5 different playgrounds out there. Parks are parks. They could be open green space. They could have benches. They could have gazebos for, you know, reading. You can have walking. You know, there's, and some of these areas are small as well, right? like I'll give you an example, the end of Duga Road, that's our land, it's public, open space. You can put a playground there. The topography doesn't lend itself to that, but you could do something else in terms of a park or a parkette or something, right? So we will be coming in the 2025 budget discussions with some items there. We know that there was a recent delegation to council that'll be discussed at the Parks and Recreation Committee level. And so there will be something coming forward. We're hopeful with that item that we can tap into like the Terry Trillium Foundation and OHFC. Those seem to be the agencies that will fund more recreational based items and that. So we did try for the new volleyball courts twice now with Ontario Trillium Foundation, and it wasn't a fit, is what we're being told. I did speak with NOHFC and they're not looking to look at that either. So I believe that's one item that's going to come to council in 2025 that we move ahead with it ourselves. It would complete the Corbeil Recreation Hub. It's the only thing that's not been addressed. So that'll be one item to discuss a budget along with the pocket parks. Complete the Corbeil Park Recreation Hub, that's our ISA project. So that's been going on for several years and it was to span several years. There's still money available. So what we're going to do prior to the 2025 budget deliberations is we're going to look internally at what we spent so far, like what was granted. Our cost is 27%. The rest was funded by ISA. So we want to look at what money was granted to us, what we spent so far, what initiatives that we told we were going to do, what's completed. And then we're going to look at that to say, can we wrap that up in 2025? If not, let's look at 2025 and 6 and wrap it up this term of council and get it completed. But with that money, like we've looked at the tennis courts and we've looked at pickleball courts and we've addressed the playground. One thing we've discussed at council, which would be a change to our approval, was a bit of a walking track on that property. But one thing I know that's large in there as well was the pay for parking lot. That was one thing we wanted to do, the last thing to do, so that we didn't have heavy machinery or equipment going across the newly paved parking lot. But you know, that the whole sales pitch around that parking lot was a good way of getting that approval. We spoke to how many seniors use that parking lot with our seniors active living center, and the fact that the lighting isn't adequate in the parking lot. So those are things that would be addressed. I think the parking lot lights is a 2026 item. But wrapping up the recreational side of things, 2025. So we'll get into it in budget deliberations. So that's one that's ongoing, but we've been doing something every year in that park. Develop shovel-ready plans for library expansion. That one was delayed. The idea with that one and the plan was to come to the point where we have a set of drawings that we can go to a funder, one HFC or someone, like a plan ready to go, shovel-ready project. So that in discussion with Jennifer at the library, it's a little bit delayed because there seems to be work on, I know Jennifer's end, before this happens, like surveying the community, finding out what exactly the community wants to see in a library, what programs and services. Those are things that should be looked at before you start designing either an expansion or addition to the building. What are the needs, right? So it's going to take a bit of work from municipal staff and the board at the library and Jen to kind of get this one going. So, but it is delayed. Yeah,
Just one question.
Yeah.
Are you gonna put a foundation underneath it?
There's only,
What's the thoughts? I'll tell you why I asked.
yeah,
The seniors don't have an exercise venue as a separate entity. And if we expanded the library on both levels, then we could, once again, the word seniors opens sometimes the coffers of the provincial
Yeah.
treasury. Then we could also piggyback on and say we have a special fitness center for seniors, designed by and for seniors.
Yep.
Underneath the library, as we do now for regular levels.
yeah. So two things we were thinking. Do we do an addition that's only the upper level? That just because the upper level, you can bring it out and it's almost ground level,
Yes,
right?
right?
So it's doable, as what an architect had said, or is there a need to have a bigger fitness center and we expand out the entire facility outwards, right? We are limited at the back where the property line is. There is also the side that we can possibly do, but we know it'd be cheaper to just go one wall back, and be done with it, but it's kind of tough to talk about the project when we don't really like, we're kind of looking at what's the community need in terms of library services for the next 20-25 years. That library was built in 2001, I think was the move-in, or 2002.
Yeah,
Right? So we're,
can't go back to the first slide anymore. Gosh.
Why?
Bedrock is right there.
okay, so, and that's stuff that will be determined with, looking at, plans and,
No, it's just a thought for the future,
yeah,
because quite frankly, the fitness, we're running out of room too.
yes, I know.
And we're putting a $20,000 expansion of equipment in the next month and a half. We've already started. And the membership is growing exponentially.
Yeah,
So there's a need now, but
yeah,
it's something, but I'm just thinking of a specialized senior center. And we could easily work along. There's a lot going on at the Corbeil Hall, which is not designed for the use that it's getting,
yeah.
as far as exercises go.
So I'll mention two things. Let's go to exercise first and the seniors, because I've heard it before from the seniors group that, we need more space.
Yep.
They're in a facility that accommodates 130 people. There's an arena that has a capacity of 300 and some people for exercise. I don't know why we wouldn't be utilizing the upstairs at the arena.
As long as there's no equipment needed, it's fine.
Correct.
You're right.
Yeah, like if it's, like Councilor Kelly, you do exercise with them. I don't believe there's.
There's very little equipment and it's mobile equipment. You
Yeah.
Carry it in
Chairs.
chairs.
Yeah,
Not a
so like that's a good example that maybe they need to utilize facilities that are available, larger. facilities,
Good idea.
right? Going back to the library.
Yep.
Like there's 44 items in here. We look at the library. There's some municipalities that might tackle 5 kind of library things in a term. Like a shovel ready, like we're talking about a project right now, the library. Councilor Champagne mentions Bedrock. Like we've got to look at this soil testing that has to be done. Can we expand the basement? Can we expand just the upstairs? We thought expanding just the upper level is cheaper. It's ground level.
Sure.
We can do it, and it's just the library that needs an expansion. But if the fitness center needs one and we can't bring it out, well, then you start getting into discussions. Do we need a different facility? Do we need a different location? Like, they're not just easy, we're done. We have a shovel-ready project. There's so much work that goes into one action item that involves our council and myself and the library staff and the library board. So when we look at it, we say, oh, it's delayed, like, and we're upset about it, but they're good discussions, right? And they're big projects.
It's work in progress.
Yeah,
So certainly, one item you hear at times that with community groups is space for meeting. So basically, they often meet at night or on weekends and currently there's the Corbeil Park Hall, but they need to get an access. So we know the Corbeil Park Hall is accessible when the club, actually 50 plus, is not using it. But in terms of at the end within our community, beyond that, sometimes there's a lack. So there's the Nesbonsing Parks, the Anglers and Hunters, but it is their facility and we have to get used to. So I find that at times there's a lack of ability to, the community center is available, but in the summer it's not available at night because there's no staff. So that's a problem for community groups to meet. And I'm part of them sometimes, and I have an issue finding a place to meet with a group that's where we have access at night. So it would be great if ever we are able to expand the library, if there was a room where there was a key access or an access somehow that could be, available after hours somehow, or made in such a way that people can access meeting rooms for community meetings.
yeah, the only way.
The church not available?
The church, no, absolutely not. No.
So unless we have, like every facility we're gonna lend out is gonna have a key that needs to be picked up unless you're giving keys out to everybody. Like gone are the days of picking up the key for the Corbeil Park Hall at Lucky 13
Yes.
and just going about and doing what you want. There's so much liabilities these days on that. The only way of doing that is to have like a key punch button. Well, as soon as you give out that number, that's floating around. It's always been a bit of a problem.
Yeah.
I think what needs to be done is what groups need usage, and let's have a discussion on what best works. Prior to the expansion of Canada Post into its hair facility,
Yes.
we had that.
Yes.
We decided council at the time that it would be a community meeting space for not-for-profit groups. They did not have to pay, but they came and picked up a key from us.
Yeah.
But it was nice. It had a kitchenette, it had a fridge, it was a good meeting space, right? But then Canada Post opportunity came for an expansion, and a bit of the concern was if we don't say yes, do they leave for a larger facility, which if we don't have, they're going elsewhere for it. So we did an expansion and lost the community room.
Makes an excellent example of a room like that, that if it was part of the library, that people could, I mean, there's no problem picking up a key or but it's the availability at night that you can use because if you're limited because there's no step,
Yeah. Like where call is like that, you have to pick up the key.
That's perfect.
It's evening, weekends, whenever you want it, except for Monday to Friday, 8:30 to 4:30, the
Yeah.
seniors have it. But it's a good location for that.
Great, thank you.
The next one was to research feasibility of a municipal RV trailer dumping station. That was actually scheduled for 2025, but it's been discussed already with council and we weren't going in that direction at this time. Excuse me. The next,
Can we talk about that?
Oh, yeah.
Somebody came up and so.
there was a comment in this survey about this again.
They came to me.
They brought up a thing at Bertha, I believe, at the landfill.
Yeah, so it was just, and I had said to them, we don't have wastewater, so we'd have to, and they were saying, there's funding for that, and I'm kind of going, I'm not sure what funding there is for that, so I thought, well, this is a public meeting, we can just sort of what our process was there.
There could be funding for it, so the tough part with funding is you never really know the full availability of what's out there until you have a project that you need the money for. Then you start saying, is there funding out there, right? So it's the same when we want to do a road project. Oh, this is a possible funding program out there. Well, we know we get OSIF money, Fed gas tax, like we know where they are. That's a bit more of a specialized one, like, hey, would there be funding for that? So if council really wants to go forward with it, I think our discussion all along was we're almost like a dumping station for people coming through the community. And do we want to deal with other people's waste or problems and manage that? We had discussed that the best location would be at Corville Corners at the McEwen. And maybe that's something that Sam would like to entertain, I mean, and charge for it, and it's a service. But yeah, like, are we just a dumping station, people coming west to south or north to south west to east and north to south, right? And they're just saying, okay, we can go dump these first and keep going on our trip. And then we're gonna deal with getting rid of the waste, right? So, but if it's still something that council wants to tackle, well, we could look at the possibility of it, like where would it go and if there's funding available and what kind of charge they would for that. But there is a water source fee.
Yeah, you have to, that's a different license too. Than your liability, your insurance. A whole bunch of stuff for the amount that's gonna get used.
Yeah.
I don't know where the usage would be. So that's the problem, right? For one or two people, or even 10 people, it's still not worth it. I know the only place you can do it now is on the way to your prior, but that's Sky with place. That's when big.
Antrim? No.
No, the big J or where it's called down there.
In our part, it's
Flying
J, yeah, that's the one place that went the other way to Sudbury, so North Bay used to do it and they stopped doing it.
Yeah.
For that reason.
For what reason? The insurance?
Driving by, just dumping and it was going a long ways from over there all the way to the plant. They need the water to go with it to flush it, right? Right now, if we put a holding tank in, 3,000-4,000 gallons, it's not really worth it. It's okay if we had a trailer park or something like that people are using on weekends and stuff, that's one thing, but for somebody just to have a place to dump, makes it tough. There's a cost associated to it, right?
So it's good that was just a discussion. It's open in the public and then I can point to that.
Okay, so the next item. Yeah, so the next item we were looking for the new build, so the Corville Fire Hall and Training Facility. That was one that was spanning the term of council to 2025. It is in progress. It'll become more of a budget discussion for 2025, but we are in the process of trying to secure land for a new fire hall that's going to come to the first meeting in January. So that was step one, and we had discussed this at the committee level that, you know, if we want to go forward with a new build or start talking about what a new build really means and what it looks like and what the size is and what kind of site plan it is, well, we got to start with land. And that was step one, and we've basically achieve step one, and we'll be bringing forward a bylaw at the first meeting in January. And then, as part of budget discussions, we gotta start talking about, what's the next step and site prep for a building, and whether that's this term of council, the new build, or the next one, or tied with that one as well is our housing accelerator fund. We put in for round 1 and 2, and we were unsuccessful for round 1. We're hoping for round 2, we are successful, but there was monies in there to put towards a new fire hall and training facility. Because we're a growing community is what the sales pitch is. Basically, we're a growing community. There's a need for better fire services, and expanded services, right? So, that one's in progress, and there'll be more for 2025 budget, discussions. But also there is a funding program that's open right now, for new training facilities under Skills Development, Canada, basically. And that's one that we're working on now to gather the information to submit that app. So there's a few kind of rods in the fire, I guess I would say, with that one.
First meeting, January, decided.
The first meeting in January, we will bring forward a bylaw to enter into a purchase sales agreement for land. So that's step one. Yeah. But then,
But yeah, anything above that, no,
anything after that is going to budget.
yeah.
And from there on, we'll see where the next step is.
We haven't decided what kind of a building.
The next one was research a facility of electric vehicle stations. That was a 2023 item. We actually completed that one at the end of 2023. They were in service in 2024. If you don't have anything, if you have anything else, advocate for increased childcare services. That one's ongoing. That was myself and Greg that have worked on that. We've had several discussions with DSAB. Sometimes I feel like I want it happening more than DSAB does, but I don't know the full picture, and I know they're frustrated with not being able to get funding as well from upper levels of government to address childcare and housing in the area. We do know there's about 1,500 kids on the wait list for childcare in the district, right? So
Still refer back to, difficulty getting trained personnel.
Correct.
Money.
correct.
That's a government issue. I mean, that makes absolutely no sense.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's just my personal opinion. That's why one of the holdups, I know, because everywhere you look, talk to them, they're all saying the same thing, because you're showing service.
Yeah. With that as well, it's not just staff and DSAB. I mean, council has advocated in the past. We had an information session where we had DSAB and some local childcare service providers in the area attend. We've done a delegation to address this. We've passed resolutions to look at, I believe it was covering tuition costs now for ECEs to get more CEs out there, but also a fast track ECE program, like I believe it was the PSW program. Nothing's really come to fruition with that. But then when we look at childcare services, there has been some movement in East Ferris. We do know, they had once mentioned to me that there was 2 new home-based daycares in East Ferris that could take up to 6 kids per. So I mean, that's 12 children right there, right? So they seem to think the solution for East Ferris is home-based licensed daycare centers was the solution here. In a way, it's really tough right now. We don't have a commercial space or anything that we can say, let's make it a daycare, right? So that's a bit of an issue as well. But if we look at what's available in East Ferris, we've had some movement over the last few years. We've got the YMCA program at our own facility, which is an only after school, correct? Right, not a before.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna add. So
Yeah, go ahead.
The daycare conversation is obviously difficult for a variety of reasons, but I think to try to do other support services like the YMCA, so that's an after school program only. But it's been at capacity since the second or third week it ran. So very popular, mostly services at school next door. But then we've also established a permanent early on program, which, is related to childcare services. It's a little different in the sense that parents bring their children there, it's more of an interactive type thing. But those are the things we kind of do outside of the daycare topic.
And the next item was advocating for increased seniors housing. That's always an ongoing, that's staff, that's council as well. We've had discussions with CMHC because we had housing funds, applications that were submitted there to try to help with affordable housing in the community and other types of housing. Also with DSAB, there's been discussion around that. We're aware of the, you know, the Bacon School in Astorville. They're looking to do some housing there as well. So it's always gonna be, housing's a big, it's a hot item right now, whether you're federal government or provincial government and municipal, everyone's wants housing, right? There's a need for housing, so we'll advocate as best as we can when there's an opportunity for it. But in a way, and I'll say this, and I know some will say, no, you're wrong, but they're more of a provincial federal mandate housing than municipalities. I'm not saying we don't have rates to play in that or to assist with that. But in the end, I mean, are we gonna start taking all of taxpayers' dollars to put towards building housing and that, right? I mean, we've got a lot of downloads that we face already from upper levels, so. The next thing was to develop a maintenance policy for municipal welcome signs. I know Antoine's been addressing that. There's an idea kind of right now of how to go about it. We want to formalize it on paper. But it'll speak to, you know, inspections possibly. Do you want to speak to it, Antoine, or do you?
I can add some sort of context. So back in the days when we first installed, things were done from the supplier that was from Florida, like we had a local Ontario that made the sign, sold it, but the solar system was kind of Florida based. So what happens right now is that we did an internal review of the, you know, what should it be? We're looking at different so before we start implementing, we've identified, you know, like better wattage of solar systems, better battery systems, better. So the entire thing, there's a cost to it. So we can't, or we don't really want to go in everything at once. But essentially what it is that as we replace, we didn't want to replace exactly what was there for what was there, but then, so we have that knowledge and then we're putting that.
Yeah. And there'll be there's an idea as well to keep some of these parts available on hand, because you know, when a solar panel goes or something, now you got to order it, and is there a delay to get it? So we're going to speak to the maintenance plan about having batteries and solar panels and lights available, so that if there's an issue, we can remedy it quicker than in the past. So. Increased recreational programming for youth, teens, and adults. It's always going to be an ongoing one to assess, you know, what the offerings are from the community. I find the Action 50+ does a really good job on the senior side of things, and you know, kudos to them. If they weren't there providing rec programs for seniors, we'd be having to address that, right? We're supposed to provide offerings to all generations, all age groups, right? But they do a really good job of on that side of things of covering the 50+ age group. For us, though, over time, we've increased our programming. Go ahead, Greg, and speak to that.
Yeah, I mean, we've tried to add things as they make sense and as there's opportunities to do so. So specifically with regards to, I guess, starting with the arena. So we've been running hip-hop dance classes for youth. That was something that Jenny started up a couple of years ago during this term of council. Sold out the both times we ran it. We've continued things like pickleball on the arena floor during the summer. That's mostly organized by the plus group though. There's been an increase in public skating that Jason brought up earlier. So we've got the skate with Santa coming up, for example, and we started doing open shinny last year for kids. We've also taken on running the adult beach volleyball league. So that's ran by Jenna as of last summer.
That was always a volunteer, one or two people that ran it.
Yeah,
and we've kind of now assumed it.
So now we assume that, and that's actually growing. And our minor soccer, the registration numbers the past 2 years have been far and away the largest we've ever had. So we continue to manage and grow those programs, and we've added things here and there. So I think we're on track for this one.
Yeah, public skating as well is big, and we've always got our schedule out there, and yeah.
Oh, it's huge because I bumped into a group of kids because I went out for the ball hockey in the summer, in the springtime. I think we started.
Yeah, we did ball hockey as well. Yeah.
So I went out with the kids. Had to be about 50 kids out in the floor of the arena there, and a bunch of kids there asked me, you know, Steve, are you coming back out in the springtime for ball? I'm like, I don't know. Those are pretty tough on me. That was a lot of fun though, and that was, you know what, and that was a really good initiative to start up with. Jenna started that or
Yes,
something like that, so it was good.
Yeah. few other things. We've had a science camp. We've had that at the arena. It's not been an every year thing. What we've tried to do is more partner with YMCA and Science North and those groups because how do we get like for our age when we have our program? They can't buy lifeguards. And they were there all the time. I started paying $20 an hour for lifeguards. So to me, if then we started getting from other municipalities, well, if we had one lifeguard and they can help do us and you and that, it just makes sense that if the Y is having a hard time, but they get somebody, it makes more sense to try to bring their program here. They collect their registration money and they have that revenue to be able to pay their person. And they're kind of spreading that lifeguard around. Like to us, it's a bonus here. So we don't charge for our facilities. They get to keep the registration, but in the end, it brings a program to our community and our residents don't have to go outside the community. So I think those partnerships are really valuable to have. Even with the early on, it's a partnership with community living, right? We have partnerships with YMCA and Science North. So I think we can expand a bit more on those. But we also need the provider to say, yes, we want to expand into your community, right? So they've been really valuable, those partnerships, but we did hear in the survey responses, more programming. I find in a way on that one is there might be a community engagement piece to that to say, hey, we're hearing this. Come on out and maybe we do a mini town hall to just hear about recreational programming for all ages. Like what are people's ideas? Right, so.
Yeah, and this year with the library, I'm passing when I was talking to the CEO, I mean, they've had over 200 programs in our library, so for all ages, so that's a big partnership too.
Oh, for sure.
I'm still perplexed why we don't advertise or promote library programs on our own website. I know we had discussed that in the past, but to me, I find there's such a richness in the library programming that would benefit the whole community, but not everyone is, and I don't know what are
We share some.
yeah.
I don't want to use the word inconsistent. I don't think that's the word, but we don't consistently share everything from the library.
No.
See, we share stuff. And then we share it to the groups we're part of, which is East Ferris Post and Oswego News. And then you'll see sometimes the library shares our stuff. If you're following the library, East Ferris, all of that, you're getting the information like 3-4 times. We're a little concerned a bit as well, like when people start getting tired of seeing that. Like they'll say, okay, why is the town sending us everything from the library when we follow the library? So a bit of that, but some of the library stuff, if they release if they were to release an annual calendar or the calendar events for the month, those are more things, Kim, that we tend to, go ahead.
Yes, the library often, they release a monthly newsletter that includes their activities, so we try to share that when they made that available through their Facebook, but I'm wondering if we do something similar as to what we were speaking to earlier about our own newsletter. So even just pushing out, like, did you know the library has all of these resources? Go visit their Facebook page for more, rather than just continuously sharing their posts, because it can get a little bit overwhelming if we're already doing 3 or 4 posts of our own in a day, and we start adding 2 or 3 of the library's posts as well per day, then we might get a little bit more negative feedback. Oversharing.
Wait, Deputy Mayor?
When I've launched council, you can't hear Greg or Kim speak. So maybe for people who are listening, and transparency, because it does get garbled back there.
We've talked among staff that whenever we have a council meeting and council addresses and they want to talk to a staff member, it's almost best to ask the staff member to come up to the delegation table where there's a speaker, because we've seen that as well. And now, in some of the comments we've heard, and they were in the survey as well, love having the council meetings live, but sometimes the audio is not the best. Well, yeah, Greg's way over there. And these speakers are meant to be, I think they were 8 feet is what it picks up. I mean, it's quite the distance, right? So maybe we'd alleviate some of that that's why I said today it'd be nice to have them all at a delegation table. I mean, we could have put one table with everybody at it and a speaker, and that probably would have been better for today. Yeah.
Everybody's right here.
Yes. Yeah.
Like budget time. So
And normally budget time, we'll have a table there and the manager sits there with a couple of them. So, yeah.
So just to paraphrase what Kim says, it does get overwhelming trying to echo everybody's post. And so, you know, maybe just the summaries are being posted of the libraries.
Yeah, it'll be a good, we'll discuss it internally, Kim and I, because there's yeah. Like there's certain things that we can put out there. Like I like if the library puts out like a calendar event for the month.
Mhm.
But then all their individual items that are on that calendar, if you start sharing them all, and there's 200 of them.
Mhm.
You're almost every day or so sharing a library item plus our items,
Mhm.
right? I'll give you an example of what we do as well. Like Wassy Ski Club, every year, once a year, they normally come out with their membership drive. Memberships are open, buy your membership, we're starting up the trails. If it's not Kim or I, like we try to share that one to get it out to the public that go get your membership, because how many people are following Wassy? I don't know. But we've got over 1,000 people.
Mhm.
And then people following us, you know, some of that ends up on East First Posted or Osmond News, get the word out to help the Wassy. Right? So those are kind of things we keep an eye on, the other external groups as well.
Similar to like hockey registration.
Yes,
So like major events we try to share.
yeah. Like they'll come out minor hockey, we'll see the Vipers say, okay, registration's open, this is the day. Which our staff helps, Jenna helps them with registration usually. And that's something we want to share to get the word out, right? So. Yeah, if there's ever any ideas from council around what else on social media, I think we do a fairly good job.
I think you just do what you can do, and then you piggyback on everybody's social media and get it out there.
Yeah,
Like Lauren was saying, like you just, you know what I mean, like you just, yeah, bombard them. That's all you can do.
it's funny, because some organizations have somebody that just does social media, which we can never do here. Like everybody wears more than one hat usually. And I can also remember the first social media policy came to council a few terms ago. How much time was staff to be on Facebook? And it was like, okay, we're gonna limit it as much as we can, right? And then you hear today, how much are we getting out there? Can we not be getting more? It's a complete turn, and I can remember all of that, right? So it's where's the happy spot that somebody isn't saying, oh, they're playing on Facebook all day, that's all they do is certain. Right? So I think we're at a good spot. What goes out, but
It is, but again, we're growing.
yeah,
So it's.
Get the word out.
We catch up all the time.
yeah. Okay. Determined method for communicating the welcome package. We say it's completed, so what we had determined we were gonna do with that one was we have a letter, a template letter, and the mayor had provided signature for it. And the idea with that, and we're gonna start it up in 2025, was whenever we get a sales information from MPAC that someone new is coming to the community, because you can usually tell where they're coming from. Then we would give them a welcome letter, and with that letter, be some information, depending when they move in the community, a copy of a calendar, because, you know, they're not, they wouldn't have received it. But just a welcome, and it's a message from the mayor basically saying, welcome to the community. Do we have a website, Facebook, all of this, where they can get the information basically. So we'd like to start that in the new year based on sales data from MPAC. We can pull that, I believe it's every couple of weeks, but we probably look at 1 month at a time. Okay, who moved in January? What's the addresses? Get the packages out to them, and that's how we want to go about the welcome package. Although the welcome package is on our website anyway. It's just some people may not think to go there to see a welcome package, right? Update the facilities and recreation master plan and develop a cultural master plan. Both of those are delayed. I'll let Greg speak to it, but our feeling with that, if council was okay, was to not proceed with those two items.
Yeah, I had a couple things, so these are both items.
You know what, why don't we just move the table up now? Go ahead and speak, Greg, and let's move the table up.
Sorry, I don't,
It's a good point, yeah. I prefer this way. That's fine. Well, come on up.
Go. Okay, no. Okay, so these ones, both of these are kind of in the same general vein. we've budgeted or put both of these items in budget for the past 2 budget cycles. And ultimately, once we reviewed budget closely, they were pulled out in both of the budget cycles. Going back a bit before that, so the facilities and recreation master plan, when we did it once previously before, and it was done in conjunction with our economic development strategy, and that was done in 2013, I believe. So we just recently redid our economic development strategy in 2022. It doesn't really make a lot of sense to me to have an economic development strategy and a facilities master plan in the same document. My understanding of why it was done that way in 2013 is because there was a funding program that was available for a recreation plan, and council wanted to do the economic development strategy, and by putting them together, it kind of allowed it to happen. So that's what happened in 2013. So we had a facilities and recreation master plan because of that. So I think the idea was, okay, we need to update it, so it should probably go in the strat plan. And then now the more we're kind of looking at it, we're not a very large community. We don't have a lot of recreation facilities or sites or anything like that. Like primarily we have our arena, we have the Fort Blair Recreation Hub, and then a variety of smaller recreation-based sites like adjacent to the lakes, for example, or trail systems within the community. So I guess the question came, do we need to have a comprehensive plan to manage our recreation sites because of how few in number they are? I mean, you look at other communities around our population or around the province, that there are a lot of them in like the 4,000 to 6,000 population, let's say. Some of them have these plans, a lot of them don't. I personally feel that we probably don't need to have this plan in order to manage our recreation facilities appropriately. But obviously that's up to council. And just quickly, I'll touch on the cultural master plan. Of the communities that I looked at around the province that have facilities master plans, almost all of them have the cultural component built into that plan. So they've merged these two documents. And that kind of makes sense because, for example, our Recreation, Park and Culture Committee deals with both of those items together as well. The cultural master plan, I think, kind of came about as a result of wanting to celebrate the cultural heritage of East Ferris, specifically differences in like historical Francophone community and how that kind of played into the culture and development of the area. If we did decide to not move forward with a full plan for this, I do have a thought on how we could do maybe like a pared down version. Specifically, it's something we've talked about before at council, but one of the major things that kind of drives cultural activities in communities are community events. And we often have requests about community events come to council for like small financial support or other promotion. And one of the things we've discussed in the past is maybe there's a way we can put forward like an event program policy where nonprofits and different organizers could come prior to the start of the year to council. And there's a defined set of rules on how they could apply for funding to run their cultural event in the community. And that would really kind of solve a lot of the cultural focus and supporting cultural activities without the need to go through an entire planning process, just given the fact that we haven't really seemingly been able to get to that budget wise. So those are kind of my thoughts on those two plans.
I just want to make sure, Madam Rose, did you want to come forth so you're not,
I don't think it's necessary.
you're okay? Okay, so,
Speaking.
okay, all right, okay. Well, just because of just because of the link to Parks, Recreation and Culture Committee, I'll just speak. Personally, I find that a lot of those, the need for these plans came from a desire for more recreational programming for youth, teens and adults in our community. My sense is that it may be the recreational plan stemmed from that, wanting to see. So I think by the fact that we've got that item there and that's ongoing, and the discussion on that point has increased on that item at our committee level. So I think that personally, I would do away with the recreation master plan. I never, personally, the cultural master plan, I know some council members that it's linked to something that I had encouraged.
No.
But not necessarily. It's not, and I don't necessarily see a need for having it there at this point.
Okay.
That would be I'm just providing here my comments to that. So
It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. I don't think it's needed, right?
It's a lot of work.
I think the down version is fine, something to look at. I don't think it.
Yeah, exactly. It was like, I remember, like I was telling Greg, there was a few things that the last economic, term, that came up. We didn't come because there was a lot of work and there was a lot of, we just didn't have the infrastructure to actually get it going. So there was a lot of different, blocks, I guess, if you want to say, or stoppages. But no, I agree with what you're saying, and Mayor, as well as Councillor Staffing, like there's, yeah.
Oh, sorry.
I agree. We've, for years now, what we've done as a council is through staff is make facilities available. And dependent and volunteers have always stepped up. Pickleball is an ideal example, because that came out of Florida, and I remember was a young lady approached me in the parking lot at the Fresh Mart about it, and I'd never heard of it before. Brought it to our Parks Rec committee, and all of a sudden the facility was available, and it took off. So, and if you look at the Wausau Ski Club, I mean, there's various venues. Pickleball's gone absolutely crazy in the summertime and fall and spring. Minor hockey, soccer, the swim program, but I think if it's not broke, why fix it? It's doing, our volunteers have done one heck of a job over the years. They're continuing to do so. I can't see any reason for any changes. That's my own opinion. Thank you.
Right, Deputy Mayor?
So one thing's coming, because I'm looking at the picture over, Vanessa Hudson's head, is that hallway talks about our culture. And when I brought people in, and I know when we've had open cup, people are going, oh, this is great to see this. This is part of our culture. But it's sort of closed off from people. And I don't know if, instead of a cultural master plan, I'm not sure what the benefit that is sort of having on our website. Our history, these, just as history, I don't know. And part of our, because it's part of our.
They came from the archives of the library.
Right,
And we framed them,
okay.
but I'm wondering if they're a digital archive of the library at all. Because at one time there was archiving Jennifer was doing, and I'm wondering if they're all digital anyway.
Right.
I'm thinking about it now.
I
Okay.
don't think they got much wall space at the library, that's the thing.
No, but you know, they were pulled from the library, they were in a box, Kim, I believe. And we framed them for there, just to use them, but I thought they were archived through the library, digitized.
Okay,
I'm not quite sure though.
so it could be instead of, we have a tab on somebody's website, right? Saying culture and history. And
Like on our-
therefore it's there for people to, I don't know, does that?
Well, then maybe then we include it as part of the Parks, Recreation and Culture Committee. Maybe we add to their mandated development of some form of, and it could be as simple as that. I mean, to your,
That's the section on the website.
Because you don't need a museum, because museums are hard, because you have to have somebody there. But it is a little,
Okay.
well, we have two websites in our community that do carry heritage information. We
Yes.
have Corbeil Ancestry that has a lot of photographs. And we also have still Astor Villon Fight there. Most of those photos are there digitally. They all come from Astor Villon when we celebrated the new school, the closing of the school, the new school. All of those posters were made for that, and they're all available on Astor Villon Fight in that particular website. So there are things out there that I think would be easy to accumulate, and maybe that's as simple as doing that. That's a good recommendation.
a summer student.
Yeah.
We got lots of pictures from the fire department side of it too.
From where?
Fire department, we have
Oh,
lots
yes,
of
there we go.
Mhm.
I kept, and I started to put them in books and stuff, so
When I left, I gave it all to. I gave it to one of the captains to look after it. And I go to the fire hall, and you'll see some of them up on the wall, and it dates back for like quite a few years. And I know they're not digitized. We have.
Does council support us trying to get Corbeil Ancestry and Astor Villon Fight websites on ours, posted on our website? Okay. Another piece, I'm wondering if we can, like our calendar, we get digitized, available on our website. What about the Corbeil Astorville books?
Yes.
whoever published them has to have a document we could PDF,
Yeah.
and we make those books available,
We're full of information.
make
Yeah.
them available on that page.
Yeah.
Yes, I understand people have bought them. Well, you got a hard copy of it.
Yeah, but there's no more Astorville.
Right, we're not producing
We're not
them anymore. We
producing,
have a few core deal books left, but zero Astorville to give out. I think I have one that's owned by us to keep for records.
Oh,
That
good
might
thing.
be a good thing to tackle at the committee level and start talking about going about that.
Okay,
Yeah,
Great.
one thought I just had, it sounds like it's gonna be referred to Parks Committee, which is probably the place for the discussion, but for example, in the economic development, like Sphere, we've done very successful business spotlights. Maybe there's an opportunity to do something like a historical spotlight program or cultural spotlight program where we create little infographics and post them the same way we did our business spotlight. Maybe something like that is a good middle ground.
what a rich discussion. Very good, I just thank you. Boy, I think that would be all wonderful ideas. Okay, we move forward.
Okay, so we're okay with those two items, removing them from the plan?
Wait.
Okay. The next thing was continued community recognition programs. Those are ongoing. They happen every year. We did them in 2023 and 2024. Volunteer recognition, Sports Hall of Fame, those kinds of events. And what I may do, council, we talked about that picture earlier about only being 50% done on 2023, 2024. Taking out these plans, the two of them will change that figure, but also if we look, we might digest the ones that span multiple years, and if they're an annual event like the community recreation, we'll include them as community completed for 2023 and 2024,
Yes.
which would actually give a better picture of
Yeah.
our position, not 50% done and 50% spending.
Yes.
So we'll look at those a little better, because after today's meeting, any comments at council or any changes, we can make changes and then produce a final document, possibly by the end of the week, okay, Kim? And get it circulated, because we wanted to include a link to this in our newsletter, which goes out by the end of the week. So that the public's aware.
Making the changes live now as we speak about them, so I can probably have it to council by tomorrow for the final version.
Wow, okay.
Okay. Yeah.
I know it's almost 10 to 3. Are we okay for continuing? We still have like, let's sort of aim for 4 o'clock to finish everything we have to finish.
Oh,
We're
yeah,
good?
we'll be
Okay.
done because we're on page 14, and though the bulk of the action items are under the community-based stuff.
Yeah.
Do you want to take 5?
That's what I was asking, 5 minutes? Because we still also have the encounter that we need to do.
Okay, so on page 14, we move on to page 14. So we're at support our entrepreneurial community. We just put a couple items here. We just want to mention 2025, there'll be an updated community profile available. So in the past, we've hired a consultant to do our community profiles. They tend to be updated every 5 years for the census data. We actually updated the data internally ourselves and we'll release a new fresh version of our community profile. Gives them substantial amount of work on that in-house. So that'll come out in, I don't know, Kim, within the next couple of months, I would say. We just want to highlight, we have 94 local businesses on our business registry on the website. And then we have our 10th annual East Ferris Trade Show that's happening on May 24th this year. So 10 years of trade show already.
We need to have the horticultural club is participating, so we'll have to have a flower dedicated to, I mean, there's something that we can do to the local as well.
Yeah, and Greg's already had an internal meeting, with our consultant that did our trade show last year that had won the RFQ process. So they've already begun the meetings and we're not in yet. So planning is underway for the 10th annual. So our business-based action items, action item number 1, provide continued exposure and promotion of local business through business spotlights. That's something that we're trying to do annually. 2024, we did complete them. I think we did 5 of them, correct? Yep. They're all on our website as well, available to the public. Partner with community organizations to host small business seminars and educational workshops. It's an ongoing item. I'll give an update on what we've done. It's limited to what we've done for this, but
we primarily share seminars that are being hosted by the Business Center in North Bay specifically, and sometimes other ones come out through like Yes Employment or the various ministries. We have a business distribution list of emails of local businesses that we circulate to, and we've just found that that's the most effective way to engage with seminars, just by kind of piggybacking on the organizations that specialize in those activities. So we do this consistently as they come out. We share it to our network.
And then review future municipal land requirements for planning purposes. This was indicated as a 2024 item. I know we've looked in the past, when we had Karen here, he did an inventory of all our lands. We provided that to council, what lands are available, what's been declared surplus. So, but I think what we were trying to address with this one was a more deep dive into what lands do we need 5 years out, 10 years out, 25 years out. As the community grows and we need land for other infrastructure, I think we got to look at, like we were doing right now with the fire hall. We want to go ahead with the fire hall, we have no land. If we wanted to go ahead with the municipal building, at one time we were saying, well, where's it going? We don't have the land. We ended up going on land that we owned. So I think we have to have there's got to be an activity of just that. Like, where do we see ourselves X amount of years out? And what does that mean for land or infrastructure that we'll need? So it's an ongoing one as well. The next one is our annual business registry review. It was done in 2024. It's an annual one that we want to update every year. Create, promote business support materials. We're going to be creating support materials for 2025, and I'll let Greg mention a few words about that.
Yeah, so this one, Connor is working on this one specifically right now. So we're getting to the tail end of the public engagement that Connor's been doing, like meeting with businesses and also the not-for-profits in our community. And the next step when he wraps that up is that he's actually going to create individual support material for each business that he met. So he's going to send a tailored email with directions to, programs that may apply to them, information that may apply to them, and connect with each of them directly rather than produce general material and just post it out there. We think that this will get better engagement from each individual business if it's tailored directly to their needs.
Our next item is to implement actions from the Economic Development Committee or Economic Development Strategy. We did hire our economic development intern. It's later into 2024. So that's ongoing, and the idea with him is to tackle as much of our strategy as we can for his contract is up. Our next items are government-based action items. So the first one is to increase communication of our quarterly newsletter, and that's completed. We've some of the ideas, like we've shared it on our website, we've shared it through social media, that we have a newsletter. And then it's also, in our municipal calendar, it speaks to having a newsletter. So we feel we've with those, continued avenues of social media and that we're doing the best we can to speak to our quarterly newsletter.
You might want to look at a proactive campaign where we also, and when, you know, rather than letting them just register, is there a way that we could proactively seek email addresses? And so
Yeah.
just a thought.
Yeah. I mean, one came to mind right away, but I mean, there could be something as simple as a box at the library that's got a sign. And people drop their email in, like they fill it out on slip and drop it in. We collect those and add them to the list, right? But go ahead, Kim.
Greg had a great idea. We did add a very small infographic or a very small piece of paper or something in with the final tax bills. Just saying, please sign up or something, because it does go to every household, whether or not they use the internet.
True, yeah. We can actually do that right in January. The next bill is going out in January. Okay. Update the asset management plan. It's in progress. We're actually late right now, I'll be honest with council. Like, we were legislated to have a complete, well, there's different stages, but the last deadline was July 1st, 2024 to have your plan at a certain point. And then July 1st, 2025 is to bring it to a fully completed plan. What we're working on right now, and Antoine's one leading this, is kind of covering both deadlines, 2024 and 2025, with the release of our next asset management plan to say we've met all of the legislation. So we're hoping to complete something in the new year, hopefully by the end of January, but if not, soon into the new year. Because we also don't want it affecting any funding programs that we want to apply for. If they say, you know, you need an updated asset management plan, we didn't submit one, then they may look and say, well, we're not gonna, you know, provide funding to you. So it's important to have it done, but this was actually brought up, it was was it Jenny that brought it up this morning? Yeah, it was brought up at the Ontario budget today, but I've also had a session with the ministry last year, and they wanted to get together the municipalities that have not submitted a complete plan yet to say, you know, how are ways we can help you. And one of the things I brought to them was, you know, the legislation came out before the pandemic about having asset management plans done. And then we all went through a pandemic for, you know, like 2 years or 3 years disrupted. And a lot of times at the start, we were just focused on that. And there was a lot that's happened after that. And there's a lot of backlog, and they never changed deadlines. So a lot of things in life kind of stopped or stood still, or you didn't move forward with things. You hear construction projects didn't move forward, but the government's still saying, well, you need an updated asset management plan. We've only got so much internal resources. They were diverted for other things. So what my thing was, as I mentioned, the parliamentary assistant, was extend the deadlines. Like, at the whim of a stroke of pen, you guys can do this. Whether you have an asset management plan for East Ferris today, or you have it 3 years, like, how's it really hurting the province when, I mean, in a way, the province doesn't even have their own asset management plan. So anyway, we're gonna tackle it. But what's tough is between myself and Antoine, who's been assigned to this, day to day, you're busy as it is to now be looking at an asset management plan and trying to crunch numbers and life cycle costs and all of that, right? So they should have come out with more funding and continued funding for asset management plans, because, you know, a year or two down the road, your data's old. Like, we did the culvert study, we did a road need study in 2024. 3 years down the road, that data's old now. Like, that road that might have been good at 85% is now a 70%. But the ministry expects that you're gonna keep these studies going and paying to get new data to keep updating your asset management plan.
They used to give you
There's
funding.
no funding.
They used to give you funding for it through the.
Well, they dangled funding for the first 2 years. It was up to $10,000 or something, but how much did it cost for a culvert study and a road need study,
We use the funding,
right?
like
So,
that's how we, for those things.
correct, yes.
So we use those funds and the data's now, like, we have those data available. We have a lot of data. And as you're saying, like, now we have to put in.
How much was it?
I don't remember the numbers, but it was relatively expensive.
So we're tackling that one. Develop a risk assessment fire service master plan. Well, the risk assessment is completed. The fire service master plan is not at this time, so it's delayed. Revise our property standards bylaw, that'll be completed in 2025. That with the site plan control bylaw, we were really looking to rely on our bylaw enforcement officer to assist with new bylaws. But council's aware, we're now on to the third person for this job. So those items have been delayed, because we were counting on them being done by somebody else.
The other thing, Jason, if I may, real quick, the site plan control bylaw, another reason for the delay on that is tied to another one that's coming up later is the Trout Lake policies.
Yeah.
So we know that there's going to be required updates to the site plan control bylaw as a result of whatever Trout Lake policies are passed. Or there's going to be recommendations anyways. So it was, do we want to do a full scale review when we know these changes are coming? So there was a bit of that going on with the site plan control bylaw as well.
But that's being held by, not by us, by North Bay, right?
Yeah.
It's in conjunction with North Bay and the Conservation Authority. So the three of us are partners on
Not delaying in any way. It was on the North Bay side.
Yeah, yes.
Official plan, 10-year review is 2026, so it's a future item. But Greg will be getting that one in 2025, leading up to 2026. Update our procurement bylaw. I will be bringing that forward to council by the end of February, because the idea with that is, we're gonna get our budget passed by the end of February this year. And the idea is that the managers, when they're starting to do their tenders and RFQs and all that, they can start using a new procurement bylaw, because some of them, like their purchases, we may not have to go to an RFP or a tender. Right now, depending on what you're putting out there, a tender starts at $25,000. Well, almost everything today, that's not a true day-to-day thing, is 25,000 or more. So you're almost having to do a tender or RFQ process for everything. So we wanna.
We gotta change that.
Yeah, it's actually a very old bylaw, 2274. It dates back to, I'm not sure the year, but if you think about it, $25,000 back then is a lot different than what it is today. So I've heard it from our managers as well, that it's tough because Ray does his own tenders, Antoine does his own. There's no help on the tender side of things. So if they have to drop everything in day-to-day things and asset management plans not to do tenders, it's a lot of work. But what I want to do in the new procurement bylaw as well is address some issues maybe that we've had in the past. Like sometimes the tender is an invite, sometimes on our website, sometimes we put it in the nugget. We're going to get away from all that. We're going to do what other municipalities do. We want to go to a system, and Antoine and I sat in on a webinar for this, or an online demo, but it's called Bids and Tenders. It's a software, it's a subscription-based one. North Bay uses it, but there's a lot of municipalities that use it, and everything we tender will go through Bids and Tenders. So now there's no posting it on the website, and then, because the issue of posting on the website, if we post on the website and, a company pulls that tender, that doesn't go back to look for an addendum, right? And then later submit something and they didn't look at the addenda, there's legalities in that. So what this system does is you sign up, you pay for your subscription, and you have access to all the projects happening in the area, East Ferris included. You pull your tender document from there, and an addenda gets posted, you get an email saying there's an addenda. You pull it, it's all that. We would put the final results through that, but everything would go through that system. Transparent, everything's treated the same way. It's built into our website.
Oh, that's excellent.
So that's what we want to do in the new procurement bylaw, move ahead with bids and tenders. So that's coming forward in the future. Report annually on our strategic plan progress report. So we're supposed to be doing that annually. We've done the 2024 one. We're doing it right now. Update financial policies. So reserve fund, debt management, long-term funding. Those are delayed in part because the asset management plan, we're waiting to see what that is. Those policies were last done when we did our first asset management plan, because they tie into it. So if it tells you have a deficit, how are we going to address it? We have a policy for that. So those have to be done after the asset management plan is done. Digitize all bylaws and publicize bylaw index on the municipal website. So we currently got 1951 to current. So it's completed. The only thing I believe we haven't done is the index lists. Carrie? They're done and they're on the website as well?
I'm not sure if they're on the website.
So we should double check that one if somebody can make a note on that. Develop policies that promote staff retention. Those are in progress, and Kim's done a lot of work on that. And I'll be honest, I put them to the side because we had bigger kind of fish to fry, but we're looking to complete those this spring and get them out of the way because they are in draft form. Create training inventory for all employees for career development. That's completed. So what we did is we looked at every employee, went through their employee files, documented what kind of training they have. And then the idea with that was that we now have it on file, who did what and when it was done and when is it time for renewal, so that we had an idea versus saying, okay, well, like what training does he have? Let's go through the file. It's quite a bit of work, right? So that's been done. Communicate road maintenance activities with residents. I say it's ongoing. It's an ongoing discussion that we've had in Public Works on what we get out there to the public. There's been talks of greater schedules and things like that, but we're not quite, I guess, set on what we're doing. The talks were is to communicate at least internally with staff to say, let's develop schedules that we have internally. So we understand, and when residents do call, we can say, yeah, you're scheduled for this date without putting it out there, because as soon as you put it out there and you don't do it, you have a resident say, well, they said they were gonna do it and they didn't. Well, it's too wet to bring the grader out, or too, it's a lot of back and forth of trying to communicate.
Especially for the person answering the phone.
Yes.
That's what it's there for. So residents are gonna call in, they should have an answer.
So if we turn the page, the environment-based action items, this is the last of the action items. So first one's to finalize and implement recommendations from the Trout Lake Water Quality Study. That's delayed due to North Bay, but the policy, the draft policies have been created, and then early 2025, they're looking to jump back on that and get them to get it going. Reintroduce septic inspection program for permanent seasonal residents if feasible. That one's completed. Council through that's the one I mentioned earlier. Ready brought a report for it, and we weren't moving forward with anything new at this time. Blue Box transitioning, it's in progress, and we're going to be transitioning September of 2025. So it'll be quite a bit of work in 2025 to communicate to the residents and, you know, enter into agreements for Blue Box collection and that. So it's coming. Modernization of the municipal landfill site, delayed, but we've had some discussions at Public Works, and there'll be more in 2025. One thing we're moving forward with in 2025, and it may not be January 1st, but Leah's on it right now, is to bring a POS terminal machine to the landfill so that landfill tipping fees can be paid by card versus cash or check. Research and initiate waste management programs and services to deter waste from the landfill. Kind of ties in with modernizing our landfill site. So again, that'll be further discussed at Public Works in the new year. And then create a tree protection bylaw. It was delayed, but it's to be completed in the summer of 2025. Now, I know one of the comments in the survey was, why are we concentrating on those kinds of things when there's other things? Well, tree protection bylaw, and I know at one time there was a canopy bylaw, like we had to, it was legislated. So Greg will speak a bit on this tree protection bylaw.
Yeah, so the tree canopy policy was something that was legislated in, I don't know, it was last term of council. It was probably around 2019, 2020 or something like that. This one here, there's maybe a bit of a bigger conversation with council about what to do here. So just for a bit of background, so the tree protection bylaw, the reason why this is in the strategic plan is because right around the time when we were doing the strategic plan, when we were coming into the new term of council, council may remember that the province was making a bunch of changes with how they administer certain planning tools, and one of them is site plan control agreements. So a lot of the province's kind of blame on lack of housing is directed towards municipalities and like red tape and slowing down planning approvals process, et cetera, et cetera. So one of the things that led to was the province saying, okay, municipalities, you're not allowed to use site plan control as a tool anymore for certain scenarios. And site plan control is basically what we use on our lakes to make sure that vegetative buffers are remained along the shoreline and, dictating what goes where on the site, what they can clear, what they can't. And so as a result of the province pulling site plan authority for anything under 10 units, which is what they said when we were doing this plan, a lot of smaller municipalities were kind of saying like, okay, hey, like what do we do now? Like, how are we going to maintain our lake protection policies? So the thought was, we'll pass a tree protection bylaw that gives us the ability to regulate who can cut trees on their property and where and all these things. And then that'll effectively allow us to kind of have similar control over the shoreline. After we passed our strat plan, the province rolled back all of their legislative changes and said, you know what, we made a mistake. Like, site plan control is a useful tool on lakefront properties, adjacent to railways, and they had a list of certain scenarios. So we are still able to use site plan control on lakefront properties. So in my mind, the tree protection bylaw, the reason I brought it forward to council was as an alternative to site plan control. So I'm not sure that it's totally necessary because we have the ability to do the exact same thing through site plan control. That being said, I mean, a tree protection bylaw could still be drafted to apply to all properties in the municipality. Sometimes you do hear concerns about people, worried about their neighbors buying property and cutting it. I don't know that it's such a big concern because people don't typically buy property in a rural municipality to clear cut their lot. You know, they kind of want that protection, they want that kind of layout, that privacy, so. I don't feel that it's a huge concern that people are going to buy their lot and, you know, clear cut the entire thing and put a big lawn and all of that. So in my mind, this was primarily aimed at lakefront protection, which we no longer need because of our ability to use site plan control again. So I would recommend that we don't need to do it, but I'd be open to council's comments on it.
When you talk about trees, are you talking about dead trees or live trees?
No live trees.
Just live trees only.
Yeah, so in our site plan control bylaw and in our official plan for that matter, we have like direction on how we handle clearing of vegetation near shorelines. And so both those documents require a 30-meter vegetative buffer. And then we have, you know, allowances for access corridors through it and how to handle dead trees, like you're allowed to remove deadfall, et cetera. But the idea is that you want to maintain a vegetative buffer along the shoreline because it helps prevent erosion along the shore of the lake, so you don't get runoff of sediment into the lake. It also helps capture things like nutrient runoff from septic systems. So there's a bunch of reasons why vegetation along the shoreline is a good idea. So our site plan control bylaw allows us to prevent people from clear cutting their shoreline. So then you don't end up with like a Muskoka style scenario where all the lakefront is clear cut, it's all grass. I mean, we do see some of those types of properties, but the idea is as new properties develop, we can kind of preserve that more like natural kind of shoreline. But the problem is they removed our ability to do that. So that was just to say like, okay, maybe we need a tree protection bylaw. But then they said, you know what, actually you guys can still use that tool.
Well, I'm okay with removing it personally, just so you know.
Yes.
I think like site plan.
Okay.
So that's the last of the action items. The rest of the comments on this page were just nice positive comments that we received that we want to share with the public. And then the last two pages, we call it addressing significant concerns. There are more themes we heard throughout the responses from the survey. You know, one of them was about speaking at council, how to go about then doing a delegation of council. We just want to put the information out there. And then Corbeil Conservation Trail Maintenance, there was a comment about that almost alluded to us being the ones that own the trail and maintain it. So we just want to put out information to the public to say it's owned by the Conservation Authority. They maintain the trails. The trails are available for use.
So the other thing, there's no mention on it, but the Boyer Trail, that's also maintained by the Conservation Authority, isn't it? No.
There's no one maintaining.
No one's maintaining it. And I mean, it's a trail that.
There's a couple of owners of the trail. It requires some attention. I mean, it certainly.
From my understanding is you can't jump on the trail and you still hit the property where the explosives are, correct? Like that's.
At the end, yes, at the
Yeah.
end, you can't come out.
So it's not a trail straight through to the end unless you want to get to the dead end and turn around and come back.
Mhm.
But
It's not maintained by us, or?
No maintenance.
and then there was one comment that was made about budget increases in 2024 due to pay equity. And I mean, pay equity is not something we just decide, hey, we're going to do it. It's legislated. It's legislated to do. Our pay equity, the last time a study was done was 2010. So 14 years later, we did a study. Actually, it was 13 years. We passed it at the end of 13. So I mean, it's legislated, and that's what it really happened. And when you wait 10 or 12 or 13 years to do it, there's going to be an adjustment. Two ways. It's to make sure that female and males comparers are paid equivalent, equal pay for equal work. But also, it's also a way to look at comparing ourselves to municipalities of comparable size to ensure that we're paying competitive wages to keep the best staff that we need. Fourth, increased growth and development. A lot of comments about, you know, I moved to the country to not have houses next to me. There's lots of lots being sold. There's lots of subdivisions. So we just wanted to put, you know, a little bit about growth and development there in terms of following policies. And I'm not going to read it word for word because I know council's not even going to put it out there and just because of timing. The number 5 was developing the former St. Thomas d'Aquin school. So, you know, there's a few comments about that as well. And I want to bring that out to the public is like, you know, we don't own the facility. So we're limited in terms of what we can do with a vacant building. And when a vacant building comes about, what you can do is go at it with a property standards bylaw if it doesn't look good or there's tall grass or, you know, things like that. But when taxes are paid and property is being maintained, if it's vacant, it's vacant. There's not a lot we can do with that. And I think the residents think we have a lot more power than what we really do. Right? If you own a house that's vacant and you're overseas working for 10 years, we can't do anything with your house. It's the same with this property, right? Unless it's breaking some kind of fire code legislation and that. So, but we want to provide a bit of an update to the residents that, yes, council and staff worked, I would say, their butts off with the prior owners of that school to have it redeveloped. We assisted in terms of having meetings with our MPP and face meetings and trying to look for funding programs and, you know, as much as we could. And then the building ends up getting sold. And I mean, I'm okay with it. I went to a local developer who is known to not sit on a project and not do anything with it. So we just want to let the public know that, you know, we're hopeful in 2025, the project really ramps up. I know I was just going past it, I think it was last week or the week before, the roof is being redone. Money's being put into the building to secure it for over the winter. So we're hopeful it ramps up in 2025. And I mean, council made it a priority that we work with the owner of that former school to see housing happen. We've seen preliminary site plans, although we've not seen full construction drawings. So we are working with them. We're trying to see if we can get money for affordable housing through DSAP like we would any other developer in the community, because it's important for council to see that building and the project come to fruition so that it's not vacant. So I know, you know, there's a lot of talk in the public. I get questioned by my dental hygienist, what's going on with it? Well, next door to it, and I give her an update as much as I can. But you know, we're trying. We've put a lot of time into this, and I know council has, and something's happening. And we hope 2025 is the year it happens.
There was a couple of workers working there all last week.
Yeah.
Every day.
Yeah. So fingers crossed that we see it. I'm not sure it'll be completed in 2025, but it's going to ramp up is what we're hearing. So. Active transportation costs, there was a couple of comments in it. We spent $880,000 on bike lanes, and then there was another comment. So I just wanted to put it out there. The budget was $1.7 million for the project. We were under budget. Council's commitment was 10% of the project, so 170,000 or less. It would be less than 170. But the project is complete. It was 90% funded by upper levels of government and other agencies, so NHFC, Trillium Foundation, and the Active Transportation Plan at the federal level. So 10% was our contribution. So we end up with about 14 kilometers of trail, because both sides of the road, for under $170,000 was our cost. There will be bicycle repair stations, there's benches. It ties in from our Corville Recreation Hall all the way to McPherson Drive, hardtop surface. And we've only really heard positive comments so far about the actual project itself and the surface.
We've heard from Centennial Crescent residents that want.
Centennial Crescent residents wanted to go all the way down Centennial the other way. So, you know, it's funny because you start doing these things like Lake Noswansing Road and then you start hearing from residents say, okay, well, can you do our road? So I think it's gaining traction, these kinds of things. We heard mention of sidewalks in the survey. Probably not gonna happen, and like there's a lot of money that goes into sidewalks and liability and sidewalk clearing machines and staff to clean sidewalks. So this is a compromise, I would say, and still provides that avenue for active transportation.
More of a comment than anything else. A lot of the public does realize that, especially a project like that. If we had sustainable funding from the province, we could do whatever we wanted with it. They identify for active transportation.
Right.
And if we don't take the money, you lose the money. So it's an opportunity to spend money where it was needed.
Yeah.
And it's not like that we were just going to go and do that other than our roads. If they give us sustainable funding every year, we could identify what we need and do it. Unfortunately, they don't do that. So that's the reason why we went. So maybe another one next year will be for the finishing stand. We're not saying we are, but that could be the only issue is if we're active transportation. Otherwise, we're stuck with what we have. We're on our own. People have to realize that a 1% increase in our taxes is only $50,000. So do the math. You want to keep your taxes low? That's how we got to do it.
And then number 7 was communication and transparency needs improvement. That was one of the comments. So we just wanted to put down, like we talked about earlier, avenues of communication with the municipality. And just to kind of mention that it is a shared responsibility. We welcome any feedback from the public when it's something that may not be clear. And then number 8, one of the comments was nothing's been done in over 30 years, same old, and that's fine. Everyone's got their own opinion, but I thought it was a good opportunity to just highlight some of the major investments over the last 15 years, because there's some municipalities that, we hear even about this municipal building, like, oh, I wish we could have one. We hear that. We host other municipalities here, right? Council's been aggressive over the last few terms. Part and parcel, we've got good growth. You've got good growth, you're able to divert some of that money to other projects where other smaller communities wouldn't be able to tackle. Like, I can remember I started in 2011, the arena was just completed. It was $5.4 million invested in the facility at that time. And I will highlight a couple of these and go over them versus the other items that came up. Over $6 million has been invested in the arena in my time with the municipality. That's the initial project, plus almost $1 million on the interior roof truss system that was done in there. $250-some thousand that was put into a brand new kitchen. We did a East Ferris Medical Center for about $3 million. We did a project like that and council was good. It was kind of like, if you build it, they will come. That's what I feel. We had 1 doctor committed. We've got 3 doctors today. We have a nurse practitioner, we have nurses, we have a social worker, we have a pharmacy that's not been in the community. I know we only hear very good comments from the pharmacy and the services they provide.
Wish that they had more room.
They all want more room. They all want a second floor. We know that, right? We're busting at the seams. There's not enough parking. We have light labs now. They do blood services. We'd like to expand light labs to everybody in the community versus just patients. The problem becomes parking. Everything in this community, I find, whether it's something happening at the arena or something happening, there's never enough parking.
It's true.
It almost feels like it's always something like, it's almost a tough item on its own we need to address in the future is expanding parking at areas that we know are suffering, right? So that's that one. We built a new municipal office. We built a new public works garage. Now, someone would say, yeah, the garage burned down. Yeah, it was also an opportunity to double it in size and meet the needs of today and, 20, 30 years out.
And upgrade the facility.
Council could have said at the time, we're only using insurance money and building what is there and that is it. No, we weren't short-minded. We thought we need to think future, right? And that's what was done. $2.6 million, 1.2 coming from insurance. We did an additional playground, pickleball courts, tennis courts, active transportation trail, expanded dock at South Shore Boat Launch. We refurbished the outdoor rink and the existing tennis courts, Astorville and Corbeil have been done. We supported the development of additional 28 units of geared to market seniors housing. That's the Villa Council. I'm saying that the not-for-profit board did the work, but council's always supported the villas over time. There was fee waivers for development applications and building permits and subsidies for taxes. So, think about it. If there was no support from the municipality, it would not be 28 units in town, right, for that. We sold municipal land to facilitate a brand new school in Astorville. Without selling that land, there was a possibility the school was going to go develop where land was available. It may have not been in our community. We made a little bit of money, but we also saw the need to have that school in the community and council supported that, right? And then we, annually through budget and we're limited, but we always put money into roads. We're always looking at what roads can be resurfaced or paved and put money annually into that. And we always have. So these are just, and our municipal office, like one thing's mentioned here, we built this building. Some may say it wasn't needed. Well, the old building was 1967. It was an expo project and we're busting at the seams and it was obsolete. So those are just high level, the last 15 years, they're major projects, right?
Few changes.
Yeah. So I think some people lose thought of that or sight over time and they've lived in the community for so long. But when you look at just the last decade and a bit or decade and a half, it's substantial, right? So anyway.
I think we're ready for a resolution, right?
We're in a seconder, please. Councilor Rashid.
As amended?
Councilor Kelly, that council for the municipality of East Ferris approves the 2024 strategic plan progress report as amended.
All in favor? Carrie, and congratulations. It was a great presentation, a great discussion and everyone's input was wonderful. So on that note, we'll move to conclusion of this first part. We are moving in camera for 20 minutes.
If I could first say thanks to all the managers for all their updates for the plan and finding the status where they're at.
Right.
And also to Kim for developing the actual progress report. A lot of work's gone into it.
Councillor Trahan wants to applaud. So we applaud. They will.
Mover and seconder to go in camera, please. Deputy Mayor Roy Akers, Councillor Trahan. This meeting proceeds to session at 3:34 PM under section 39(2) of the Municipal Act in order to address a matter pertaining to item B, labor relations or employee negotiations regarding staff performance review. All in favor?
We all in favor. Thank you.
Sorry, Carrie.